All right, welcome back. This is Two Cops, One Donut. I'm your host, Eric Levine, and I have another special guest with us today.
Hey.
Unfortunately, Zentino couldn't be here. He is at work still, technically. So
I don't know if I'd call it work, though.
right. So before I get into introducing our guest, I have to get into the sponsors.
Yes.
So, and by sponsors, I mean sponsor, just one, singular. So today I have a new gun. I have a 1911 done by HRH Combat Arms. You actually know the guy.
I do. It's Sergeant Ware, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Sergeant
I
Ware.
saw that he's been doing some work on some guns for you.
Yes.
So I've caught a
Yes.
few of your podcasts just to kind of familiarize myself with the whole thing. And I see you plugging away here for Paul. So
Yes. So Paul's actually stepped up. He loves the show, and he really likes when I bust his co-owner's balls, Steve Miller, who's a Marine. But this gun here is a 1911 wood grip with HRH Combat's symbol or logo right there on the side of the handle. Now, I notoriously bust Paul's balls.
reference.
Paul's balls.
Yes.
That's awesome. Paul's balls about the 1911 because it's a jam factory, you know?
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
I know. It's because you're old. So the 1911, I always tell him, hey, if you make me a 1911, does it come with a jar of peanut butter? And he's like, what's that supposed to mean? I'm like, well, it's a jam factory, you know? Peanut butter and jelly goes together. So
I have a similar joke about Harleys.
ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always ask the Harley riders if it comes with a free pickup truck to drive it home with.
Oh, nice. So now the reason that Paul is so good with 1911s is probably because the old school ones, factory out of the box, were they if you didn't really keep the maintenance up with those things.
Yeah, I will agree with you. As far as the 1911 platform, I
Yes.
mean, you can modify it and do all kind of work on them, polish them up, polish the feed ramps and, everything else, and they become tack drivers.
Yes.
But straight out of the box, they make excellent hammers.
Right. So with that gun, I don't know what all Paul's put into that thing. A matter of fact, I think he was supposed to email me or text me what he wanted me to say about it. And I'm not going to do that this episode because I forgot to check.
Well, what I'll say about it is it's obviously got improved sights on it, and the trigger is crisp, and I'm going to guess it's at about between 3 and 4 pounds on the trigger.
Nice.
So very nice. The slide was smooth as butter,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah.
And
Feels good in the hand.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, I like 1911s.
Yeah, I do. I don't know that I felt a better natural grip than what's on a 1911.
No, I've been carrying a Glock for so long that just kind of indexes correctly in my hand.
Yeah.
And so if I pick up something like a 1911, which has a slightly, I would say, more narrow frame on it or more narrow grip,
Yeah.
it indexes differently. So you just have to get used to that.
Yeah. Well, you have actual man-sized hands.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, I'm more in the George Costanza hand model.
Well, the good news is they're not like short and fat. You don't have sausage fingers or
Yeah,
anything like that.
that's a plus. That's a plus for that Italian blood in me. You know all about that. So
I do. Actually. Well, not in you, in me.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be so dirty. So I want to continue talking about HRH Combat, but before I do that, I want to open these beers that we have.
Yes.
Gino, my guest here, brought some Rawaka Flocka Flame.
Yep, this is a Rawaka Flocka Flame, and I promised my buddy Rachel that I would give them a shout out. This is from Turning Point Brewery in Bedford, and in my opinion, they absolutely hold up to anything that I've had in New England.
Yes.
As far as hazy IPAs. So
Cheers.
Salud.
Oh man, right out of Bedford, Texas.
That's gonna be nice.
So, that is good.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, like that.
I hear people complain about IPAs, and I'm like, you probably haven't tried one from
Right.
Turning Point.
Well, I think it's still in that California stigma, the West Coast IPA stuff.
Right. If you go East Coast, I think you're gonna have a much better experience.
Yes. And like you said, this is right out of Bedford, so that's what I like about it.
Right there on Brown Trail in Bedford, Texas, and they are expanding.
Yes.
Actually.
Oh,
So,
finally. Are they going to be in stores?
That I don't know. What I do know is they've bought the suite next to them, so
Okay.
they are building a much larger area for seating and everything else. And so, yeah, the only
Very
thing they need is an outdoor area, and they'll be good to go.
Oh, that's sweet. So, I'm not saying this because you brought it here, but Turning Point's my favorite brewery.
Are they?
Yeah, by far. Yeah.
I actually, I was super excited because a store had opened up not too far from me. A Total Wine had opened up not too far from me. And about 3 months later was when Turning Point opened up in Bedford. And they're about 15, 20 minutes from where I live. And I have not been back to Total Wine since.
Yeah.
I pretty much only go to Turning Point. If
Yeah.
I'm looking for beer.
I think
they're legit.
I thank Buck Wheeler.
Oh, did Buck hook you up?
Yeah. He kept telling me about it, and I was lazy and I didn't go there. And finally, he's like, I left one in your mailbox because we live pretty close to each other. Right. Yeah. So he's like, I left one in your mailbox. All right, cool. So I tried. I think it was a Johnny Karate.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
That's actually probably my favorite one.
Yeah, buddy.
Probably.
So, okay. Back to guns. Alcohol and guns.
And guns.
Yeah.
Excellent combination.
So, kids, well, I have a parental guidance on my podcast anyway. Alcohol and guns don't mix. None of these guns even have bullets near them. So, we're clear, guys. Please don't do that. We're responsible adults. Plus, my wife's here. She's my adult. So.
She's the responsible adult here for both of us.
So, back to this 1911.
Yes.
If you guys want to get a 1911 custom built, I recommend HRH Combat Arms. It's www.hrhcombatarms.com. Excuse me, the beer's already in my throat. If you want Cerakoting, tools, weapons, auto parts, sports equipment, they can Cerakote. Paul Ware is the certified Cerakoter up there, and then Steve Miller, master gunsmith. He's a Marine. Can't call him prior Marines. You can't call him former Marines. You can't call him ex-Marines.
I thought former Marine was the appropriate.
I think
they're just always Marines.
Marines.
Is that
yeah,
what it is?
yeah.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
They wear their hearts on their sleeves.
Indeed.
So
Indeed they do. But I bet he knows his way around a 1911.
Oh, I bet he does.
does.
I've said it. You haven't listened to all the podcasts yet, but almost every episode that I start talking about weapons, I give the disclaimer like I'm the pavement princess of Jeeps. So I like to have cool guns. I by no way am an operator.
But you have no concept of how to use them.
Yes.
But you can hold them and look.
I can hold them. I know how to be safe with them. I can tell you how to hit the target. I'm not that guy.
As long as you can throw a good Charlie's Angels pose up there. Yeah, there you go.
I get it. So yeah, like that. So if you want to visit the location, 5025 Saunders, Suite 103, Fort Worth, Texas, 76119. If you want to call them, 682-304-0363. Just tell them that you heard of him from Two Cops, One Donut, and maybe he'll give you some sort of like sweet discount or something. I don't know.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
But, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah,
right?
we didn't work that out prior, so Paul's gonna be like, "What the hell, dude? I didn't offer."
I will simply strongly recommend them based off the fact that it's Paul Ware alone.
Yes.
How's that?
Yep.
That
That man's
should speak for
character.
itself.
That man's character is
Beyond
speaks for
reproach.
itself. Yeah.
Yep.
So sorry, I had to take a sip there.
Mind if I mention somebody else while we're?
Yes, actually, I was going to get to that. I want you to
okay.
talk about what you had to.
So the other group I wanted to give a shout out to was the 22 Kill / Stay the Course folks in our city, and of course they're nationwide, but they do have a chapter in our city as well. And I was involved in a pretty bad car accident back in February, so just to make sure there were no long-lasting effects, I went ahead and went to make sure I didn't have some PTSD issues or whatever. So they worked great for me, and actually it's free for our department. They can go. I think you get 6 initial free ones, and then after that, I think our association pays for the rest of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what? Kind of give a scope of what it is they specialize in.
22 Kill was the original group as I understood it, and what they specialize in is post-traumatic stress disorder and associated issues with veterans, combat veterans, but also with their families.
Oh.
Because, it affects everybody. When you come home from a place like that or whatever trauma you may have dealt with, it affects everybody in your family. So actually family members are eligible also. Stay the Course is actually an associate program made for first responders, police, fire, EMT, paramedics.
So it's 2 separate entities in a way.
They're under the same umbrella.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically what they'll do is they'll set you up with a veteran counselor who is he or herself are a veteran, or a first responder, based on what you'd like to do. And they'll ask you if who you'd like to speak to, and they'll try to match you up as well as they can. But the overall goal is to help veterans and first responders with post-traumatic stress and other related issues to prevent suicide.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I never heard of that one. The
Stay the
Stay
Course.
the Course. So
Yeah, it's an associate program along with 22
So you have contacts with them?
I can tell you that with our department, you can contact them through peer support
Okay.
or directly through our EAP.
Because I would like to get permission from them to maybe work something out for the show as well. Because, like I said before, I don't want just any sponsors on here or anything like that. That would be a good cause. So.
I think they'd be a great group to get in touch with.
Yes.
I can give you the phone number after we get done here.
Especially with the audience that we typically have for this. Folks, I don't want just cops and first responders either. I want all sides of the spectrum. We need to be reaching out to citizens mostly who are outside of this realm to see the show, because that's who we're trying to educate. Speaking of education,
Yes.
today, my special guest, we're going to talk about SWAT. We're going to talk about SWAT back in the day to SWAT today. And I brought a special guest here who specializes in all that is SWAT. So, sir, without further ado, I need you to introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Paul Genualdo. I'm a sergeant with our agency. I have been with our agency for almost 23 years now. And prior to that, I was active duty U.S. Army for 7 years. Joined up when I was 21. Thank you. I was military police. I didn't do anything, I wasn't a ranger or anything like that. But even from a young age, I had wanted to be involved in tactical work. So actually at my first duty posting when I was in the Army, I had the opportunity to get onto a military police special reaction team, which is basically the equivalent of a SWAT team in the civilian world. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But then after I got out of the Army, came here to our agency, I spent probably, I think it was about 4 years with one of our zero tolerance teams up in Short North Division, back when there was such a thing.
So a zero tolerance team. Kind of explain what that is.
At that time, zero tolerance, every patrol division had a zero tolerance team. And what they did was they were a proactive patrol unit. Pretty much we were out there to disrupt crime before it occurred. And we did that through a combination of focused patrol, surveillance, snatching up fugitives for the detective office that was there in North Division, or whatever division you may have been working in, that kind of thing. Each team, each division kind of had its own personality at that time, so some teams did things a little differently. But that's mainly what we did in North Division at that time. Now, North Division is different now because our city is much bigger than when I started here. So when I started here, it was 4 divisions, and that was it.
So with that zero tolerance team, they may be called something different at other agencies, but how effective, what years were that for you, and how effective were they?
Let's see. I think I went to North CT in 2003, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. And then I was there through 2007. And we had a great time. I mean, if the captain came to us with a problem, it was go fix it. And we were very effective, in my opinion. We disrupted a lot of gang issues that were going on North Side. I remember 1 month that in particular we just focused on felony arrests, and I think we put 100 felons in jail that month, just in that 30-day span.
How big was your team?
12 people. So it's 1 sergeant, 1 corporal, and 10 officers at that time. That's how it was organized.
So with 12 people, you were able to put that many?
100 felons. Yeah.
That in a month.
Right, in a month. And that was not including the other arrests we were making. And also, as part of our duties at that time, we had a split team. Half of us worked days, half of us worked nights, so we could do more coverage. And on Saturday nights, we had the opportunity, every Saturday night, we all got together and worked the stockyards from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was very active. That was a lot of fun. We dealt with some cruising issues at first. One of our former mayors actually had a reserve license and a reserve peace officer's license, and he actually came out one night, put on his badge and his gun, and he came out and rode out with us. And
No shit.
no lie.
That's awesome. So if you don't know what a reserve officer is, it could have a slightly different meaning in other departments, but for the most part, in all the departments I've seen, a reserve officer is a person that gets certified. They have a regular job, but they go and they get a peace officer certificate, license, and they go be a cop for free. For a department. Because it's their way of serving.
Right. Most of the reserve officers I met just wanted to give back to the community. And I think they have to do, I want to say, is it 16 or 20 hours a month?
A month,
A month, I think.
Something in there.
Right. So anyways, getting back to the zero tolerance thing, how should I put this? We were a proactive response unit, which is we didn't answer calls. So if there were calls for service holding, very rarely would we pick them up. But if it was a hot call that went out, like an armed robbery had just gone out or a burglary had just gone out or something, gang fight, whatever, we would all respond en masse to that particular incident.
Okay. So tactics wise, we'll get to SWAT, but on comparison, you guys have to have some level of tactical training.
We did.
So how does that compare?
Well, back then, I'm going to say that we did a lot of things in the early years of zero tolerance that we would never do now.
Okay.
There's a saying that you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So, a couple of us had gone, like I had gone to a basic SWAT school here with our agency while I was still in patrol prior to going to zero tolerance. And, you think you know what you're doing. You have a basic outline of what you
typical cop
what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you go ahead and you kind of just fill in the blanks as you go. And I tried to keep it as, tactically sound as I was able to, but, and talking with other guys who were on other zero tolerance teams at the time, they'll tell you we all did stuff that we never should have been doing. There were not a whole lot of specific rules about what warrants we would run. And so a lot of times back then, if the SWAT team was busy doing something else, then the detective would just go find a zero tolerance team and ask them to go run it. And a lot of times we would, even though it was way out of our area. Yeah. It was way out of our area. So most of us had some very rudimentary dynamic entry training. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, it was just kind of winging it. And I'm ashamed to say, well, I don't want to say I'm ashamed to say that. We were having a lot of fun, but it would have been a lot less fun had things gone
Somebody
wrong.
got hurt. Yeah.
Had things gone wrong, that would have been bad.
So you get through zero tolerance.
Yeah.
That was 03, 02, 07-ish.
I think I left North Zero Tolerance as an officer in 07. I went down to the training academy and I was a training officer down there. Promoted to corporal while I was down there, and I stayed for a little while as the training corporal. Then I moved to a detective office down on South, and then I promoted to sergeant in 2011.
Okay.
I didn't stay a detective very long. It wasn't a bad job. I just didn't want to stay there. So I promoted to sergeant in 2011, and I went to West Division Midnight Patrol, which was okay. And I was there for about 3 months, and then an opening came up for a sergeant on a zero tolerance team, although I think they had changed the name by then to SRT, which is Special Response Team.
Oh, I thought you were going to call it that other name I heard.
Which one's that?
We won't.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there. I'm one of the few people you'll meet that I'm not going to besmirch anybody.
No.
We have some heated rivalry that used to go on between the two units, but I'm not going to delve too far into that.
Okay.
So I took over as the sergeant for South SRT in late 2011. I stayed there till 2014. And then in 2014, I tried out for SWAT.
Okay. Before we get to that, So you went back to a zero tolerance team.
Correct.
Which was changed to special response team. How did the mission change?
Yeah, so that was one of the big things that caused quite a few issues, and I'll go into that a little bit. It's not a big secret. We had a chief at the time who wanted to change the tactical ability or the response time for tactical teams. So his plan was to take these zero tolerance or SRT teams and give them additional tactical responsibility. So everybody was put through another basic SWAT school.
Okay.
And the expectation was that the SRTs would respond immediately to any high risk or tactical call. So let's say you had a armed robbery that had gone sideways, or you had a person who had barricaded up in their home. The concept was that the SRTs were supposed to respond to that, set a perimeter, and begin the basic process of setting that tactical footprint on the scene. And I'll go into that later. But what ended up happening is, as with most enthusiastic people, you get some mission creep. And some of the SRTs started to, what they were supposed to do was set a perimeter, set the footprint, and call for SWAT.
Hold what they got.
Hold what you got. A lot of them did not choose to do that. A lot of them chose to operate a little bit outside of their boundaries. And that caused a lot of friction.
A lot of tension.
A lot of friction between the two units. Yeah.
Well, you can't, if you're going to a unit like that, and you can agree with me or disagree, but I would think cops are already alphas.
True.
As personality goes, and now you've got the higher tier alphas, and then SWAT being in my opinion, the top tier of alphas. So,
yeah, the way I like to compare it, and when I make this comparison, I'm not making a comparison directly between us and the units I'm going to mention. But in the Army, in the U.S. Army, you have some tier 2 units, such as the Ranger battalions. And then you have the tier 1 group, which commonly is referred to as Delta or CAG or whatever else they call themselves these days.
Yeah.
Right? The Chuck Norris
right? Group.
So having interacted with some of those folks and some of the ones that have formerly been in the unit, and trained with some of them, they'll talk about, the rivalry that goes on, because honestly, about 70% of their people in CAG come from the Ranger battalions, and the rest come from like special forces units and stuff like that. But a lot of them come, up from the Ranger battalions. And I remember one guy that we were training with, he's no longer in the Army. He's retired, but he has a training company. And we were talking to him about there's a rivalry that goes on between the Ranger bat and the CAG guys.
Of course.
And of course, because the Rangers are meat eaters, and the Delta, the CAG guys, they're meat eaters. And
all savages.
They all want to do this, right? They all want to go get some, and God love them. I'm glad they do, right? But one of the things that came up was the Rangers will always like, if you gave us that equipment that you have, we could do the same job you do. And this guy that we were training with, he's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to, you don't necessarily want to say that when you are in the police world.
Right.
You don't want to sit there and go, because you hear that from time. Well, if you gave us this or you gave us that, we could do the same job you do. And could you though?
Right. Yeah. It's like me, I'm on a property crimes unit. Now
right.
we serve warrants. We do arrest warrants. We do search warrants.
Right.
We're pulling over felons, and we do fun stuff.
Right.
But by no means are we ready to kick a door in and go in. Now, do I think we could do like your old school ZT and make it work? Sure.
And
but
you know
it's
what?
Great until it's not great.
Right. And a bad plan enthusiastically employed will work 90% of the time. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But that's not really what we go for. Right?
No.
And before I go any further, I do want to make it clear that I'm not some subject matter expert just because I spent some years in SWAT, or I'm not a subject matter expert in anything, frankly. But I have the experience. I have a long-standing amount of experience in these areas.
He's being humble. Yeah, he's being technically sound. I know what he's doing, guys. I can tell you for a fact, he's one of the most respected people in the department, and he is one of the go-tos, one of the foremost mentionables whenever somebody's talking about training, tactics, leadership. And
How come none of these people call me?
well, you're intimidating. You're a very angry Italian grizzly bear. So, but it's one of the reasons I asked him on here. I knew Gino from working around him. I never worked SWAT, obviously, but one of the reasons I wanted you on here, and one of the reasons I thought you'd be such a good guest, is the ethic in working and the mindset behind training.
Sure.
And I've watched you teach too. And I know the folks listening and that don't know him personally, if you've ever seen this guy teach, it's a different dude. It's a different guy. Like when he's teaching, he's all of a sudden, it's like that grizzled grandpa that you know in your family. It's not an age joke.
It's okay.
But that grizzled grandpa, and then all of a sudden, the puppy dog walks in the room. He's like, "Who's my baby?" Like he's that good with teaching anybody.
I like to use a lot of humor when I teach because, when you walk into a room and somebody's about to teach you 40-something hours of penal code or something like that, that's a challenging class to teach, but I always enjoy teaching it because I get to talk and joke around with the classes and tell stories and everything else. And I'm sure you can attest to this as a training officer. Much easier to train rookies than it is to train in service.
Oh, God, yes. I hated. And now, for those who don't know, I was a training officer for recruits. I was not in there are two different branches. Teaching cops that are already certified, and then there's teaching recruits who are trying to become cops. And that's a captive audience. Those guys want to learn. Yes. They look at you like you know everything, and then I get up there and
you pretend.
They pretend. Yeah, you fake it till you make it. I'm like, all right, listen, I don't know everything, but I've learned some stuff over my years. So here's what it is. So there's a big difference, and Gino's good at teaching both in service.
I hope so.
And recruits.
I hope I am. The incumbent officers can be a little bit more challenging to teach, but I try to do my best to at least keep them entertained.
Yeah.
If you can use a little bit of humor to get people's attention and not make fun of them, make fun of yourself a little bit.
Self-deprecation.
Very much so. Like I tell people all the time that the only thing I kept when I left this, when I left SWAT was I kept my SWAT hands, and that's about it. So
I know not everybody
Mark II SWAT hands.
Not everybody can see this. A lot of people like to listen to this podcast. If you get a chance, go look up SWAT hands
There's a number of different variations.
I keep mine sooled.
Do you keep yours in the sool position?
They're too dangerous.
How wise.
It's like my knife hands. I don't get them to
this here's my safety, sir.
Yeah. Don't put your booger finger on the bang switch.
That's a chancyism right there.
No, a chancyism is like, that's like a raccoon in a trash can trying to get a soccer ball. That's know what I mean? Oh my God.
Like a cow pissing on a flat rock.
Oh, yeah. All right. I moved to the South. I ain't never heard so many weird sayings in my life. Joseph Briles, if you're listening, he's one of them. Chancy Pogue, worst of them all. Conjura, another one. These guys, these country sayings down here, y'all.
They are funny.
Oh, my God. Now, I'm saying y'all. I've caught on to that.
Anytime.
Are you a Texas native?
No, I'm not, actually.
Okay,
I'm actually from New Hampshire.
Nice. Yep. Oh, New Hampshire, yes. Yes. That's New Hampshire.
You want me to switch over to that accent?
New Hampshire, yeah. Right.
New Hampshire.
Yeah. That's where the fancy bears.
I'm not from the fancy part of New Hampshire. I'm more Shire folk, like in the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, right? Frodo and all them,
live in dirt huts and stuff like that.
Nice. Do you know we work with somebody that looks like a hobbit?
Who's that?
He's a lieutenant. LaCroix. LaCroix. He looks like Samwise Gamgee.
I agree. You said it. I did.
I told him to his face. So, we're getting off on a tangent.
No,
I told you. What did I tell you? Rabbit holes.
Fine.
Let's go down rabbit holes. Yeah. So So we were talking about ZT, the change from the early years to now.
And I would like to back up and say this, that I had a very good SRT that I came into. They were excellent at their job when I came to them as a sergeant. I was very fortunate to have such a bunch of great guys that worked for me. Super smart. I know you had Dalton Webb on a couple podcasts ago. Super smart guy. And he was on my team at the time, and also very, very funny.
Okay.
Which, as you know, in police work, if you're not laughing, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
So,
if people aren't picking on you, if you're the guy that nobody picks on,
then nobody wants to work with you.
Nobody wants to work with you. So,
and we picked on each other mercilessly. What would happen with me is I would come in, and anytime they had posted a sergeant opening on the email for anything like North Patrol or South Patrol or some other assignment that nobody wanted,
put that resume.
They would print it up and they would put it on my desk.
That's great. That's awesome.
But anyways, they were a great team, and they specialized in catching burglars. I mean, this team was awesome at it. They would develop the intel. We would do the surveillance. We had a couple really good, took down a number of burglary crews, took down one robbery actor in particular through a combination of good intel, good surveillance. I was actually fortunate enough to be out on the scene on that one.
Okay.
And, excuse me.
I know the beer.
I know it's the beer, right?
Yeah. So, that's why I typically stick to the whiskey. But
I completely understand.
I knew our beer nerdness would.
I know.
Yeah.
So
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So a guy like you, I know your leadership style, and I like it. That's why I want to pick your brain on this part.
Okay.
You come to a new unit. Like you got to have patrol. I know there's a leadership style with patrol.
Sure.
And it can stay pretty generic. It doesn't have to. But a guy like you comes into a ZT unit that you said is squared away.
Yeah.
How do you, as a leader, a new sergeant, you got to earn these guys respect, and you got to show them that you can lead at the same time. But the first thing anybody thinks, especially from the officer level, when a new guy is coming in that's in a lead position, this guy's going to come in and fuck everything up. What do you do on a new unit? What do you do when you come in?
What do I do?
Yeah, what's a guy like you do?
I sit down with everybody, and we make expectations really clear. And here's my thing. Yeah, as a sergeant, I can have expectations of my officers, but your officers have every right to have expectations of you,
right,
as a leader. So you give them the opportunity to tell you what they expect. Now, like for example, with me, I don't like vehicle pursuits. Never have. Don't like them.
I'm with you.
Don't want them. And honestly, unless it's a violent felony, even back then, I wasn't going to authorize it. But I'm also a believer that good tactics prevent most pursuits.
Yeah.
But I let them know that up front. Or like more administrative stuff, I would tell them, like one of my big things is we have a ton of discretionary time. We have vacation time, we have comp time, we have all this time on the books, right? If for some reason you're not coming to work that day, that's fine with me. You don't have to fake that you're sick or whatever. You don't have to cough into the phone or pretend you got corona or anything. Right. Don't do the dying declaration on the phone thing. But my thing is, I'll let you use as much time as you want. It's your time. But when you run out of time, you're coming to work.
Yeah.
And don't blame me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And my other thing is I believe in being present. That's a big deal to officers. You have to be available to them. And so with a group like that, or even with my patrol team, you set your expectations, and then you are present, and you demonstrate that you are willing to hear their ideas, and you are willing to listen to what they have to say, because they may have more experience in this particular area than you do. And slowly but surely, you start to work in your expertise in other areas that they may not. And of course, if they need something, you get it.
Yeah.
You take care of your guys.
Right.
I remember one time it was a crazy thing. We just set up a burglary surveillance, and a home invasion went out literally maybe a half mile down the street. So we, bombed our butts down there and caught them in the act. They basically ran out the back door. One ran through a window. As we were coming up to the front door, we set a perimeter real quick. We had them both in custody probably within 20 minutes or so. And there was one who decided to go hide in some bushes and then claimed that he couldn't come out, that he was stuck. So I went in and got him unstuck.
Nice.
Because my thing is, I'm still a police officer. I'm still out here to do this stuff.
Right.
So why should I ask my guys to go do something dangerous if I'm not willing to do it?
Right. And especially at the beginning,
Yeah,
that
when
set
you're
the-
setting
that
your
setting
tone,
the tone, yeah.
set your tone.
Yeah.
And then afterwards you buy your team pizza because they're hungry, and you go to CC's and spend, $40, $50, and then they're all happy.
Quickest way to a
Yep.
cop's heart.
Yep, buy pizza.
Through his stomach. Yep.
So that's what I did. So we had a couple really good calls, like that other robbery actor I was talking about. I just happened to be in the right spot when he took off running. So
Nice. Okay. So the thing that I took out of that from you, for myself personally, is I'm a new leader, like for a team. So for me, I told my team pretty flat out, like, this is what I expect, and this is what I'm looking for. But I never thought to ask them, what do you expect from me? So even though I've been leading this team for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, I'm gonna go back to them and say, hey, like, 360 evaluation. Like, do you have any?
It's too late now.
Do you have any Yeah. Do you have any expectations from me? So that's a good tip for anybody out there listening. I like that.
I can tell you, if you haven't lost anybody for any attrition, other than normal attrition, promotions or whatever, if you haven't lost anybody, then probably you're doing just fine. You're probably meeting their expectations. And it can be small stuff. I mean, when I was in SWAT and we moved to our new office, the air conditioning wasn't working. So I went and got it fixed.
Nice. Yeah.
Had to make a few phone calls to figure out who it was that we needed to talk to. And once I did, got the air conditioner running, and everybody was happy for 5 minutes until the next issue came up, right?
Right. So. Right. Oh, AC's critical, especially in Texas.
So. Anyways, that's just what I do. I try to be as present as possible without getting into their business.
Right.
Even in patrol, I would go out to calls because I had a young patrol team, which is to say a lot of them were pretty new, 1 to 2 years. And I would go out there and I'd walk up and there, say, what do you got?
Yeah.
Just to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
Not to micromanage them, because a lot of times the newer ones especially would ask me, they go, well, what do you think we should do with this, Sarge? And my response invariably was, why don't you tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you if you're headed in the right direction. And if we need to tweak it, we'll tweak it. Yeah. Or it's stuff like staying for a wrecker because your officer needs to get down to jail so he doesn't get stuck,
Right.
Or, if somebody's going to get stuck, fine, I'll get stuck, you go home.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
And that sergeant overtime.
And there's that.
So, okay. All right. So I like that. You get to this unit. Do you sit back for a little bit, kind of see how things are going?
I wouldn't say sit back, but observed.
Okay.
Observed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Watched how they did things. Observed their tactics, like on felony stops and stuff like that. Liked what I saw. Didn't see any particular need to change anything. Yeah. The only thing I was kind of strict about really was the PT standards, because once we transitioned over to a more tactical unit, we had PT standards. So physical fitness is key to tactical work.
Right.
So I'm not saying you have to be an Olympic runner or triathlete or anything like that, but it's important. And some of my guys needed a little work in that area, so I worked with them. There was a gym right next door to where we worked at. I'd meet them there in the morning and we'd work on it.
Nice.
So I was a little strict on that. I probably ticked off 1 or 2 of the guys about that, but
I think ultimately in the end,
it is what it is.
They understand.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Okay. So you get there.
Spent about 3 years there. I tried as hard as I could to manage the just the friction that was going on between SWAT and SRT. SWAT had a perception that SRT was going to take their job from them. SRT's perception was we were given this mission and we were supposed to do it this way, but we weren't given very specific borderlines or guidelines. So over time, guidelines got established. Guidelines got pushed.
Yeah.
Boundaries got stretched, pushed. Some people never did stay within the boundaries. That's just how it is. Hopefully I had the reputation at the time for staying within the boundaries once they were stated. Yeah. I was not one to really push super hard to poke any bears. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, okay. I prefer to get along. If I can, I prefer to get along with everybody. I mean, It's not always possible, but I don't go out intentionally looking to make anybody angry either.
So the natural progression for those units in that department is ZT was like a stepping stone.
I will, I'll say that at one time, maybe 50% or more of the people that went to SWAT were from zero tolerance teams.
Okay.
And the other 50% came from like other specialized units like narcotics, gang, stuff like that.
Very rare to come from the bike unit or
Pretty rare.
traffic.
Or it's just unusual to come straight from patrol or anything like that.
So Cody Rogers, you are a unicorn, sir.
He is in fact a unicorn. He's a very special officer.
He is.
Yes, he is.
I worked with him. Love that guy. I liked Cody because if he talked to you, at least when I was with him, you were in.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know how Cody is. He doesn't say a lot anyway.
He's a quiet young man.
He's a quiet guy. So
that's okay, but he's always thinking.
He is always thinking.
He's always thinking.
So I like
That's
Cody.
what I like about him.
But okay, so you go from ZT to SWAT.
So I tried out for SWAT in October 2014, and I made it in as a sergeant. And I would like to state that I actually did try out as an officer about 10 or 15 years prior to that, or probably about 10 years prior to that. I did not get selected.
Okay.
There are many more officers that put in for the officer positions than there are for the supervisor positions.
Right.
There's also much more limited opportunity. The way SWAT's set up here, you have essentially two squads. I don't like to call them teams because then people think, oh, well, you have two SWAT teams. No, we have a SWAT unit, a SWAT team, and they're divided up into squads. So you have, I think it's 10 officers, one corporal, one sergeant. There's a lieutenant that commands the entire section, and you have a third corporal who does administrative stuff. I believe they've added a third sergeant.
Okay.
Since I left,
Because they're trying to get another squad, correct? 3 squads.
There was hope at one time that was going to happen. I don't think that's still the case, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I left SWAT in 2018, so I was there for 4 years, almost to the day, for 4 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I don't speak too much on what's going on now because I have stayed out of that. That's my personal way of doing business. If I'm no longer with a unit, I don't go visit a whole bunch or that kind of thing. It's just not my way of doing things. If you're, to me, you're out, you're out. So that's just how it goes.
You're either SWAT
or you're not.
Or you're not.
Which remind me about that later. I'll tell you a pretty funny story.
Okay.
About that.
Okay.
About the whole SWAT or you're not thing.
Okay.
But I got to try out in 2014 and I got selected, and I was very excited because honestly that was my goal. I had 2 goals in life, even as a little kid, which was I wanted to go be a soldier, and at some point I wanted to go to a SWAT team. I wanted to be a SWAT because I grew up in the 1970s. I'm 52. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, don't lie to me. How many of you fuckers had that as your ringtone?
That was my ringtone for the...
I knew it!
Anytime we had a call out, that was my ringtone.
Hell yeah.
Now, funny story, Cody Rogers had it as his regular ringtone.
Oh, yeah, man.
So we were sitting in the office one time and nothing was going on at the time. And all of a sudden you hear, da-na-na, da-na-na, and we're all like, did we miss a call out? What's going on? And the funny part is you get so used to getting woken up in the middle of the night by that or just hearing that tune go off. And that means, hey, I'm getting to go to work.
Right.
It's there's an adrenaline dump. As soon as that starts playing, and that's still the case even now. If I hear that, my heart will start to pick up, and I get an adrenaline dump.
Right?
Because you're going to work.
It's game time.
Yeah, it's game time. You're going to work. So,
Cody, douchebag.
But we were all like, it was when I say all, it was like the sergeants and the corporals were like, what the is going on?
Yeah,
and we're like, did we miss a call out?
He just wasn't a part of that.
I guess.
Yeah,
I
he was
guess
too
not. New. Yeah, so a lot of the guys use that as their ringtone, or for a call out.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, I knew it. I knew it.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you not? That's part of the. It's part of the mystique.
Yeah, say, right? I like it. And so I've been accused of being a SWAT fanboy on here. Oh man, because I lift you guys up. I'm
okay. Well, before we go too far with that, Actually, why don't you say what you're going to say, and then I'll
Okay.
respond.
What I was going to say is, being an academy instructor, you guys were located in the same building.
Yes.
So I got to see people all the time. And one of the things I always appreciate about the guys I've seen in SWAT is from what I've seen, at least my perspective is, they aren't just talking the talk. They're walking the walk. They're always training. They're either lifting, working out, doing something to better themselves all the time. So whether I'm walking by the range, and I'm not that guy, I don't shoot I don't shoot every month like some people, but I always see SWAT walking out of the shooting range, or I'd always see SWAT messing around on the mats, doing some rolling around, or I'd always see SWAT lifting. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad these guys are like that, because I'm not. I like to do that stuff in shifts and waves, but I don't have the dedication to be on a unit like that and do it every day, year after year. I just know that about myself. My mindset ain't there right now, and it's not for me. I would love to have SWAT on my uniform to be the Gucci guy. However, I know in my heart that I'm not that guy, and I want the guys that are like what I've seen to be there.
I would say there's a lot that goes into a SWAT officer, and I'm going to back up just a little bit and tell you that as happy as I was to run SRT and thought I had a great bunch of guys, I had an equally phenomenal group of guys to supervise over in SWAT. I was very fortunate to lead or supervise them. Very, very smart guys.
Yeah.
There's this misconception that they're all a bunch of, weightlifting big dummies. And they do lift weights. That's true. We all lift weights, right? Mm-hmm. They are not dumb by any means. I think there's this, that's a stereotype that gets kind of made out in movies and stuff. There's always some tactical, some genius bad guy that outwits the SWAT team or whatever. But very, very smart guys. You cannot be dumb and be on a SWAT team. I'll tell you that much. It's kind of like the way the infantry used to be in the Army and the way the infantry is now. You cannot be dumb and be an infantryman. It's
really?
No.
Okay.
No. You're going to have your guys that are not, as technologically sound as others, but tactically they will be sound.
Yeah.
You can't be a rockhead and be an infantryman. And I'll say that about the SWAT guys that I worked with as well. And they specialize in so many different things, and we can go into that in a little bit. But they're just a very enthusiastic, very smart group of guys, very self-motivated. And I think that's the point you were getting to earlier. You have to be a self-starter.
Yeah.
To do that, to go over there, and to stay up to par with everybody else. Honestly, it's kind of like this thing where you're always competing to at least not be the worst person, right?
Right.
You may not always be the best at something, but you sure don't want to be the worst. Because if you are the worst at something, they'll let you know about it.
Okay.
So roll calls in the SWAT room are
brutal.
Roasting. I've been in some brutal roll calls before, and I can sometimes be the roast master general on them, but
okay.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a shark attack every morning.
I'm not a fan of reality shows, but everybody wants to see Cops.
Yeah.
Or what was the new Cops? Live PD.
Yeah. That's
Live PD. So people love that shit. And I have said for a long time, you want to see a show, put a camera in a SWAT room, put a camera in a ZT room, and you're going to be entertained forever.
Yeah, it's a rough place to work.
In this cancel culture, it wouldn't last but a week.
Oh, so. No, I can't even imagine. I will tell you, they are absolutely a bunch of hard, very self-driven, self-starter types, and they're always looking to learn. They're always looking to learn something new, learn a new piece of equipment. They may specialize in one thing, and then they just decide, you know what, I'm going to go try this. Instead of being like, you may be on the breaching team or breaching part of the unit, and you've learned as much as you think you want to learn in breaching, so you may decide you want to be a sniper as well.
Okay.
And so you go learn that trade craft, or you decide you want to be on the high angle assault team, which means you're going to swing from a rope on a building, right?
Fuck that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I mean, I won't go. Okay, I'm scared of heights. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not, but
as I've gotten older, I'm more scared of heights. When I was in my 20s, it didn't bother me at all. And now that I'm in my 50s, I go up to string up Christmas lights and I tie off to the chimney because I'm afraid I'm going to fall off.
I guess the mindset behind that is I've made it this far.
Right.
I'm not ruining
I'm
this.
not looking to push the issue. Right.
Yeah.
I've skated enough opportunities for people to kill me that I'd rather not do it myself. So,
all right. So I'm going to guide this a little bit more.
Yeah.
What is SWAT? What's their mission?
Okay.
What do they do?
Yeah. So would it only take us about 45 minutes to get there, right?
50 minutes and 27 seconds.
I was close. Okay. Yeah. So what is SWAT? SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. That is the traditional name for a tactical unit. I believe the first SWAT team, contrary to what LAPD will tell you, was in Philadelphia.
Really?
Yes. Sorry, LA.
Suck it, LA.
Philadelphia actually had the first tactical / SWAT team.
Oh,
it was shortly after that LA started theirs, but Philadelphia, I believe, had the first one in the
I have some
70s.
Connection to some LA guys.
Do you?
So I'm going to try to get them on
I'm
here.
sure they will argue the point ad nauseum, and that's fine. And but whatever. But Philly actually, I believe, had the first one. But they were actually, it was a unit that was designed to deal with some riots. They were dealing with some race riots and stuff like that. And I believe they had some domestic terrorism issues going on in Philadelphia at the time. So the point behind SWAT was to have officers that had additional training, specialized equipment to deal with situations that a everyday patrol officer is not trained or equipped to handle.
Right.
So that has spawned an entire, what's the word I'm looking for? Industry.
Yeah.
Probably would be the best thing to say. So SWAT has become a huge part of what you see in the public eye. And the public has from what I understand, it's very mixed ideas about what SWAT does. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say what they're not first, if that's okay. We are not an execution squad. We are, one big thing is we are all police officers. There actually are people in this country that believe that SWAT is a huge agency, kind of like the FBI.
Oh, okay.
And that these guys come out of the Army or whatever, and they transition over to some sort of law enforcement. So there are some people that actually think, well, SWAT is this big national organization. They're not. Every agency certainly has the authority and ability to have a special weapons and tactics team, but they don't all have one. It depends on budgetary reasons.
Or they don't have a dedicated one.
They may not have a dedicated one.
You could be in patrol and then a SWAT call out happens.
You could be a collateral duty team, which is what I'll talk about that in a little bit also. But so the purpose of them is to deal with those specialized situations, and primarily what we focus on, hostage rescue is one of our big ones, obviously. Barricaded persons, sniper incidents, acts of terrorism, dignitary protection details, and other assorted missions as they come down the pipe. But those are those are your big ones.
What do you mean by sniper? I'm just curious about that one myself.
Well, like the gentleman that was on the tower down in Austin back in the 60s.
Okay, so like counter sniper stuff.
Counter sniper stuff, yeah. You may have active shooters. We respond to those as well. We may not always be the first ones on scene, but we certainly do respond to those kind of incidents. What
is the response time? What's the goal for a SWAT? I mean, obviously as soon as possible, but
the goal is we did not have a hard and fast rule on that, but generally speaking, you want your guys to be, you want at least part of that tactical footprint there within an hour.
Okay.
And that's during off-duty hours.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like when you're not at work.
Right, we're not at the office doing whatever, then you want to have a no more than an hour, hopefully, to get most of your footprint there. There's going to be some outliers and some extra equipment that has to get brought in. It takes a little longer, but generally about an hour is what we want. But we do, it never took an hour that I can remember. I mean, depends where the call out is, but
yeah,
you'll get people there pretty quick.
Okay. All right. So going from that, so that's what SWAT's duties are. Mm-hmm. So people shouldn't get confused. Like that SWAT is just out roaming about.
Well,
and-
I'm going to say this. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's what I was getting to. Is they're not just out roaming about and just
Kicking
doing what
indoors.
they want. Yeah, kicking indoors and
No. So every agency is different about when they're going to call out their SWAT team, when they're going to have SWAT respond to something. In the state of Texas, there's only, to my knowledge, I think there's 6 full-time teams, which is to say that is all they do when they go to work. They are SWAT officers.
okay,
That's their full-time function.
gotcha.
They are in the larger cities that have the budget to afford them. Most of your small to medium agencies may either use a regional team, so it's made up of officers from all around the area, that volunteer to be part of that collateral duty team, so it's extra. Normally they're in patrol, and if a call out happens that requires them, then they go out on that, they go do their SWAT thing. There are a few teams that run a combination of kind of maybe 8 to 10 full-time officers and then a group of auxiliary or collateral duty officers that'll join in.
Okay,
So it really depends on your agency. It depends on your chain of command, what they want you doing. Some SWAT teams, when they are not actively engaged in SWAT training or SWAT activities, are out doing high-risk patrol, in the parts of town that are more difficult than others, more dangerous than others. They may be targeted on various missions, for crime suppression, that kind of thing.
okay,
In our agency, believe it or not, most of the time, if we're not training, we're working. And
right.
a lot of people don't realize how much work our team actually does. I was there, like I said, for 4 years, almost to the day. And on the plaque that they gave me, I have 1,011 tactical operations in 4 years.
Holy shit.
So you're averaging about 250 operations a year. We were very, very busy. And from what I understand, it hasn't slowed down much.
Okay.
Of course, there's been some changes in the way things are done now, and we can go over that if you want to. But we ran a lot of narcotics warrants,
Okay.
That was probably about, I'm going to say 85% of our business. And then, call outs, off-duty call outs, after-hours call outs for barricaded persons,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Mainly it was barricaded persons. Not very common here to get a live hostage rescue. They have happened. There was one about 2 years ago, I think. But not as common as one might think, but that depends on the agency. Like I got a friend in Las Vegas, Metro SWAT, and they run probably a dozen hostage rescues a year.
Wow.
And I asked them about it, and it's just Vegas. People get desperate.
Right.
So.
What happens there stays there. So
I
fuck
guess.
it. Take a hostage.
Yeah, they run a lot of hostage rescues there.
Huh. Okay, so the point of this show
Yep.
is we're not just talking to cops and
No.
stuff like that. So I'm trying to think from a citizen's perspective. What does a team consist of? Like
Okay.
what is each team member doing? What are you trying to, you're the sergeant, you're the lead. What do your team consist of and what are their job duties?
Okay. I'll speak to just our agency because every agency is going to be organized a little bit differently.
Okay.
So you have on our agency 10 officers per squad, and their functions are, of course, they are going to be what's termed an operator. That term gets a little overused.
So they
these days.
automatically have beards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. The term operator is actually a military term, and I think it was actually started with the Delta guys back in the 70s because they had a course called the operator training course that they went through.
Okay.
So you became an operator. Well, of course, over time, the Rangers adopted that. And of course, it gets out into the police world because you got a lot of prior military guys and everything.
Right.
So now and then CrossFit started using the term, right? So now everybody's operator is fuck.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
God.
You've heard that OAF, operator is fuck?
Yes. Yeah,
So
for
now
sure.
everybody's OAF, right? So anyways, you have your officers who are your operators, and their function is to do SWAT work. So what I mean by that is they have to have the ability to make a forced entry, whether it be dynamic or slow and deliberate. They have to have the capability to breach into held areas. They have to be able to shoot accurately and under pressure. They have to, the different skill sets that they have to adopt include firearms, particularly if they're going to be one of the snipers. You may be part of a sniper section, so you have to practice with those rifles as well. You have to be good with your handguns, your rifles. There's less lethal rounds that we have to use. We have less lethal launchers, so you have to be qualified on those. You have to know which rounds to use when. Less lethal shotguns, a variety of other less lethal tools. Because the bottom line is, SWAT is not out there to kill people. I said that earlier. We're not a murder squad. Yeah. Our job is to save lives. That's the job, right? Yeah. Primarily, we focus on hostages, but we're not looking to kill anybody. I can't tell you the number of barricaded person operations that I've worked. We didn't kill anybody. That's not what we're there to do.
Yeah.
You know, so if we can resolve it safely, that's what we are there for.
Didn't you? I'm sorry to cut you off. Didn't you push for the less lethal 40 millimeter?
No, we already had them.
You already had those?
Yeah, we had less lethal launchers.
No, I just remember seeing you teaching that.
I was part of the program to introduce less lethal into patrol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when they put 40 millimeter launchers, single shot launchers into patrol, I helped develop the program for that to get that tool out there.
Gotcha.
But oh god, no. And let me be clear. I'm not that smart. I didn't come up with anything that SWAT does that I can think of.
Okay.
So if you're one of the breachers, you have to know how to run every single one of the tools that we use, you know, power saws, Broco torches, explosives. You have to get qualified on explosives and how to build them. Mm-hmm. You have to be capable of driving any one of the vehicles that we have. We have a couple of armored vehicles. They're Lenco Bearcats. We have one called the Rook now.
Oh,
it's like it looks like an armored forklift. Oh, really? So it's a pretty specialized piece of equipment. They did a news piece on it. It was after I had left the team. So if people want to look it up, just look it up. It's called the Rook.
Okay.
But, I think they might have put it on the PD's Facebook page. I think they did.
Okay.
But anyways, it looks to me it's like an armored forklift, but you're able to use it for different breaching things. And so there's a variety of skills that you have to be good at.
Okay.
Once you get to the team. And what we're mainly looking for, at least this is what I was looking for, because SWAT really is all about personnel selection.
Yeah.
Okay. You're looking for somebody that's trainable.
Yeah.
And that can make a good decision under pressure, that makes the right decision under pressure.
Gotcha.
Under extraordinary pressure sometimes. So you're looking for somebody who actually isn't that quick to shoot, who is smart about their application of force, if that's necessary.
All right.
That kind of thing.
So you get this team together. Mm-hmm. Is it if I'm a new SWAT guy, I'm new to the team, am I applying for a certain position, or is it all these positions are available on the team and it goes with that hierarchy of seniority?
No, what I'll say is that each team, when you first come over to our team, my former team, sorry, it's not my team anymore. When you come over to the SWAT section, what you're going to do is you're going to be what's called the coordinator, which is a fancy word for the bitch. You're gonna go get all the, whenever we have a call out, you're gonna go get the command post. You're gonna get all the equipment. You're gonna load it into the command post, and you're gonna meet us, all the other guys out at the scene.
Okay.
And you will do that job until the next new guy comes along.
Oh.
So because of the size of the team and the amount of equipment that we had when I was there, we actually ended up having 3 or 4 people all come over at the same time. So they all became coordinators. Now they get trained to do everything else, and they are operators, but their primary function when a call out occurs is they have to drive from home to the office, get the equipment, and meet us out at the scene.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's who does that.
Nice for y'all that are already in there.
Right. That are already there.
Oh, how mad does the team get when a new guy gets put on like a month after?
All right.
The other new guy got
right. You'll have guys that are a coordinator for maybe 3 months, and then somebody else leaves, and now we have an opening, and we get a new guy. So the coordinator's only been there for 3 months, and he gets to start working up the hierarchy, right?
And the guy that had been a coordinator for a year was like, "What the fuck?"
I think Honestly, I don't even know when the last time was they had openings. When I had been there, the 4 coordinators that we had been doing that for probably 2 years.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I would hate y'all.
Why? It's
For 2 years?
You got to put in your dues, man.
Oh, that's a long time. Fuck that.
But you're getting trained the whole time. After that, you go through one of our prior officers, Daniel McCreary, put together a phenomenal operator training course. He's a great instructor, and he's always thinking of ways to improve the team, right? So he had come up pretty much on his own with the operator training course. And we have a written version of it now, or the team has a written version of it now. And it's an opportunity to teach them everything that they need to know about. I'm just sipping it slow.
Okay. Just checking.
That you learn everything that you're going to need to know. You're going to learn how to do basic room entry. You're going to learn how to do room-to-room clearing. You're going to learn how to use distraction devices. You're going to learn how to use all the cameras, all the robot, how to operate the robots. Everything. There's so
you
much.
Guys have a robot.
We have multiple robots.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, well, because we don't use dogs yet.
Oh, okay.
Or last I knew, we weren't using any dogs. Now you'll see that a lot. Like if you watch some of the TV shows out there, like Navy SEALs or whatever, they use dogs now, and it may seem cruel or sad to do so, but that's their job, is to check for explosives and people and all that kind of stuff. And that's, you put a dog in instead of an operator that you've invested God knows how much money and training into. Some teams do use canine units. I don't believe ours has yet. There has been some attempts in the past to try to integrate the two, but I think it becomes kind of a budgetary thing, and also the SOPs kind of conflict. They're not supposed to put their dogs in situations where the dog may get hurt, which is kind of the opposite of what most SWAT operations are. So,
okay.
But anyways, they'll learn how to use, the operators will learn how to use the robots, how to use chemical agents, how to use all the less lethal stuff that we have. There's so much equipment and so much learning. If you could do it day after day after day with no interruption, it would probably take about 2 months of solid training just to do that. And there's evaluations throughout the course of it. Like, when we teach them how to do dynamic entry, there's a pass-fail evaluation, because that's most of what our job was at that time.
And this is once you're already on the team.
Mm-hmm. Once you've been selected.
So once you've been selected, you could still get shit canned from the team.
You could. You could, yes. It didn't, I don't think it ever happened while I was there, but if you just, especially with dynamic entry, if you just could not get a handle on that, then sometimes we had to let people go. I don't think it ever happened while I was there, but there's one or two over the years that have probably just not been able to get a hang of it. And just to back up, dynamic entry is what most people picture SWAT teams doing, right?
Okay.
It's breaching a door energetically, whether it's a ram or explosives or whatever, and everybody runs in and we're clearing rooms as fast as we can. And, the joke is that, everybody's hair is on fire and we're running through the building yelling and everything else. That's what people picture. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more choreographed than that.
Okay.
But it does happen very quickly. Dynamic entry is to overwhelm the target location as quickly as possible.
Okay.
There's a couple different styles of it, but that's what dynamic entry is.
Gotcha.
So when I refer to it, I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. Probably a lot of civilians don't know what that is. Dynamic entry is just the stuff you see on TV. You see them doing it at high speed. They're going, room to room. Very exciting stuff.
Yes.
So
yes,
and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I bet
It is.
All right. So I think we got the concept of the team, the training that is required by them, and what your mission is. Your mission is obviously for, like you said, barricaded people, sniper.
It really
stuff like
any
that.
kind of extreme situation that and I don't like to say standard patrol officer, but guys like you and me that work patrol or whatever, we're not equipped or trained to handle those situations. Doesn't mean we can't handle them in an extreme situation. It means that that's not where our training and equipment.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Really, SWAT is a group of officers with better resources and training.
Okay. Now, let's get into the nerdy side of it.
Yes.
A little bit.
Okay.
Weaponry.
Yeah.
Let's go into the weapons a little bit.
Okay.
What is the arsenal look like for a SWAT team?
Oh, that can vary considerably, but I will tell you that the majority of guys carry at least one pistol.
Okay.
With our team, it's Glocks. So, I personally like Glock.
I'm a Glock fan.
I've been carrying Glocks for, what do you carry?
I got a 19, I have a 17, and I carry the 43, but I want to change the 43 to the 48X.
Okay.
I think that's what the new one is.
I have a 19 for off-duty. My pistol that I carried on my SWAT kit was a Glock 17, and my standard that I walk around with is a 34.
Oh, the long slide.
The long slide,
Yeah. And then that one over there.
That's pretty sweet. I saw that earlier. What's
that's
that
that's my little Boba Fett blaster. And so the story behind that is it's my grandfather's Glock 23. I think it's a Gen 3.
Okay.
And he passed away, gave it to me, gave me all his guns, and he had quite a few, but that was a 40 cal. And I'm not a 40 cal guy.
Either.
I don't like 40s. So I love 9 mils, and I didn't want that gun to go to waste. So I turned it into basically a Glock 17, I guess it would be. It's a 9
mil.
It's a 9 mil, yeah. So I changed it into a 9 mil. I'm not sure if the slide is the same as a 19 or a 17.
So like a Glock 22 kind of thing.
Yeah. So I turned it into a rolling special is what it really is, and
yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that one later. I might walk out of here with it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got the Trigicon RMR on there, and it's got a aftermarket upper with the obviously
you see the compensator from here.
Yeah, you can see the comp and all that stuff. And then I went and got it laser engraved.
Nice.
So the slide, or I'm sorry, the grip is all. It's a picture of Boba Fett.
Okay.
Basically.
So you're ready to join the guild at any moment.
Yes.
You're just waiting for the call.
I'm waiting for the call. I mean, this is the way.
Be patient. Be patient.
That's
all I can tell you. It's probably worth waiting for.
Yes.
I'll say that. I love my Glock 34. Honestly, if I could find a JP to perform the ceremony, I'd probably marry the gun.
Yeah.
I love it. It's favorite pistol I've ever had. I run it with just a flashlight on it. And for those of you who are listening, don't know what a Glock 34 is. It's basically a Glock 17 with a longer barrel. I think it's 3/4 of an inch longer. So I won't make a big deal out of it if you won't.
As a comedian that I heard say not too long ago, inches matter.
Yes.
Chad Prather, if you're listening.
I'm gonna agree with that. And we'll just leave it at that.
I went to a comedy show with Chad. It was Chad Prather's comedy show. And if y'all haven't seen that, I'm telling you, it wasn't what I expected. I expected, you see a rotation of comedians go up, they talk, they do their spiel, and that's the end of the show, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Chad Prather's show, this guy, he has a comedian. That guy gets up, does his set. Chad Prather comes up second.
Okay.
Which is not typical. They're usually the last guy. Then another guy comes up, and then Chad Prather comes back out with a band.
Oh, okay.
And they are hilarious.
I like musical.
So, and I'm talking, they're playing instruments, fiddle, guitars. They're singing. They're covering songs. So songs that everybody knows, and doing comedy while they do it. They involve the crowd.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
So it's hilarious. Yeah, it was a good time. So that was a blast. But anyway, back on topic. I'm sorry.
I don't even know how we got on that one.
Get on these rabbit holes. Weaponry. So SWAT. Typically, they have a pistol on them.
Yep. So you're going to run a pistol. Some guys run 2 pistols. That's personal choice. You will generally run an AR-15 variant, or an M4 variant. So depending.
No MP5?
Not anymore. The team used to run MP5s. That was a very 80s and 90s thing, was running MP5s. And the reason they did, and for those of you listening who don't know what an MP5 is, it's a submachine gun. So it's a real small platform. Fires in 9mm, and it was extremely popular. It was made by Heckler & Koch out of West Germany. It was extremely popular because it was very accurate. It was also over-engineered.
Was it?
A little complicated, a little over-engineered for its job. But it was very accurate and it was compact. Well, the problem is it fires 9mm. And bottom line is 9mm, as great of a round and common as a round as it is, not great for stopping people. Pistol rounds, generally speaking, don't, it's not like in the movies where you get shot with a pistol round and you fall down or get blown out through a window. Generally speaking, pistol rounds aren't very good at stopping people. So unless you use a lot of them.
So in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that, ballistics has kind of changed.
Ballistics has changed quite a bit. 9mm now is very much of a go-to platform for everybody, but the ammunition has improved dramatically.
So I'm curious, do you think that would be a good gun to revisit because of the change in ballistics?
I know there are some units that have done that. The other thing that you have a problem with handgun ammo, even if it hits hard enough, is range.
Oh, okay.
So you may need, the MP5 was good as I understood it out. You could shoot accurately with it out to about 100 yards.
100 yards.
Yeah. But if I need to take a long shot, 200 meters, 300 meters, I need a rifle.
Yeah.
So we, in our unit, we ran an M4/AR-15 variant. When I first got there, we were running Colts, Colt M4s basically. And,
okay.
The nice thing,
20 or whatever it is.
I'm sorry,
6920, I think that is, or
I don't know. I'm not one of those gear nuts.
The only reason I know that's the Air Force M4.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, excuse me. It's Air Force.
Do you guys carry those?
We posed with them. We have them.
Yeah, you have
so
them.
we'd
They
be
don't
there.
ever get fired.
Like, look at here's the airplane I'm guarding.
Well, we ran. I think the ones we ran at the time had a 12-inch barrel, maybe a little bit longer, and then we had suppressors on them. We had Surefire mini suppressors, and we were the envy of one of the other local large agencies because they were not allowed to run suppressors. So they were so jealous of the fact that we got to run suppressors. One of their city councilmen just refused outright because he said he didn't want them going around assassinating people with silencers on their weapons, which is just absurd. But
hold on. Let's stick with that.
Yeah.
Folks, silencers are not like the movies. It's not sitting there going
no
on a rifle.
They take about half the
yes
herd energy off. So even if you don't have ear protection on when you fire a suppressed rifle, you're still going to have your ears ringing a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes.
Not as bad as it would have been otherwise. But
now, I will say if you get a subsonic round, and if you're not into weapons and that's not your thing, don't even worry about what I'm saying right now.
So you're talking if we're going to run 300 blackout subsonic with an integral suppressor on.
Yes.
Yeah, baby. Not that I would know anything about that.
But that would be sweet. So I actually have a 300 blackout in this house with zero ammo because I can't afford it now.
Yeah, who can afford that? Right? It's almost as much as 50 cal.
I complained about this a couple shows ago that I have a 300 blackout that has it's a folder.
Yeah.
It's got the tackle off folder on that, and you can detach it is this.
Sweet little gun, right?
Yeah, little truck gun. And I don't have it suppressed yet. That's the goal down the line. There's a guy
One thing at a time.
This city that I'm in right now, Arlington.
Maybe that's why you're not with the guild yet. Maybe it's because you don't have a suppressor.
That could be it. So, he works in Arlington and he does the integral suppression for.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Paul told me about him. So I want to get that weapon integrally suppressed, which costs money.
That's going to cost some money.
Yeah. And
you got to get
right now it's all about balancing. And I want to put the money into this show, which.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe if you found another couple sponsors, maybe if somebody that did integral suppression were to sponsor you.
That would be cool. Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do that, and so I'm balancing. But anyway, if you have an integrally suppressed 300 blackout with subsonic rounds, you could get pretty close to movie quality quiet.
It's close to Hollywood quiet, not quite. But,
not quite. It's still never going to be Hollywood quiet. That's a myth. But you can get it to where you don't have to wear ear protection, and you're still going to know you're firing a weapon, but you can do so comfortably.
The thing that the main thing that the reason we carried them is because, number one, of course, you may be shooting at very close quarters. So, and most of our training was done at very close quarters. And the suppressor actually helps to take a lot of the felt energy off of that. Because you you keep getting whomped, at 3 to 5 meters with the
in an enclosed room,
or in a vehicle.
Yeah.
From a 5.56 platform, it takes its toll on you.
Yes.
You get hit with a lot of different energy waves when you are in a unit like that, between distraction devices, or what people call flashbangs, explosive charges. We're starting to learn that it has a much more cumulative effect on the brain and your
TBI,
health.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Actually, one of the guys over in the other large city that I will remain nameless, he was at a training that I was at doing some explosive stuff, and he wasn't anywhere near the charge that went off, and it ended up causing him some major brain injury.
Man.
Pretty severe brain injury. From what I understand, it actually separated the two halves of his brain. He didn't die or anything like that, but he had a lot of very odd symptoms after that. Like, he could disassemble his rifle, but he couldn't put it back together.
Wow.
Or like he was trained to play piano classically, and he could do it, I think, with his right hand, but not with his left hand anymore. It was just the oddest thing in the world. And I hopefully he's okay. I kind of lost track of him. I hope he's doing all right wherever he's at. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that felt energy, really, with the suppressors, it cuts it pretty much in half, especially at close range, and you're firing at targets close range or in a house or whatever. It helps a lot to have the suppressor on. Now, aside from that, of course, you're going to carry at least one distraction device, a flashbang grenade. Now, I take that back. It's not a grenade. A grenade sends out fragmentation. These do not. They make a big bang and a big flash, and that's it. There's no shrapnel. There is no. It's not designed to kill anybody.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing for educating the public is, what are we talking about? We're talking about somebody's in a room. We got to get in there. We got to, whether it's extract a person or
do a hostage rescue. That's your main reason.
Yeah, do a takedown on somebody. Whatever it is, they have a device that is commonly referred to as a flashbang. And what is its purpose? What does it do to people?
Its purpose is to distract by noise and flash. So that's normally what they're referred to as a noise flash distraction device. I think it's 2.5 million candelabra, something like that, or whatever the unit is that they use to measure the light. And the sound is just off the charts. I want to say it's in the 150 decibel range.
Okay.
So it's pretty loud. It may even be louder than that. I don't recall. But the ones that we use were very loud, very bright flash. And it gives you that 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, depending, to enter a room and do what you need to do to stop whatever threat is there. Now, stopping a threat doesn't mean you're necessarily killing anybody. That distraction device it overwhelms the opponent to give you a few seconds to respond to what
it's
they're
the
doing.
Mike Tyson approach.
Essentially, yeah. You want to hit them real hard.
Yeah, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Right. You want to give people a bloody nose first, and then, then you go from there.
So with a flashbang, is there a concussiveness to it?
Yes, it's not the same as the concussion grenades you'd find in the military, because those are designed to actually kill people. I mean, you're looking at what, maybe 8 grams or so, 8 grams of TNT in those. So they're designed to kill by concussive force. But those are more offensive grenades. These are not grenades. There is no shrapnel involved. They are strictly to provide a large sound, large, flash, and yes, there is concussion that is involved, strictly by the fact that something's burning and going off like that.
Right. Okay. So is it? Yeah. Would you compare it to? I mean, would you feel it in your body?
Oh, you feel it. Yeah.
Okay.
We get exposed to them as part of our operator training course, and of course, you get exposed to them whether you want to or not on operations.
Yeah.
You feel it. For sure.
I'm just trying to make people that wonder
it's a pretty good thump.
What it does to you when it happens. If it lands, let's say you throw one in a room and it lands between somebody's feet.
That's bad.
Okay.
You don't want it to land too close to anybody, mainly because you don't want burns to take place. There's a burning that takes place in there to cause that. It's an explosion. Period.
Yeah.
So that flash powder and that noise powder is going to burn very rapidly, and you don't want it to land too close to somebody because it can burn them.
Okay.
if any injuries are going to come from it, it would be from that, generally speaking. So you don't try to throw it at somebody. You try to throw it away from people. But if it goes off in a room, they're going to be their ears are going to be ringing. They're not going to be able to see anything for a couple seconds. And that thump that you feel, I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. It's not like getting hit by a linebacker or anything, but if you've ever been in maybe a low-speed car accident, maybe something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Like, just a little bump and the airbag goes off.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
That's probably what it feels like. Now, there's some other specialized weaponry that is involved. If you are on a sniper team, they have some very nice precision rifles.
308s type 308s.
Things. I think there's a couple 338 Lapuas. And I'm not going to go into the other ones.
Okay. So that's going to be a favorite topic of people.
Sure.
The sniper.
Everybody's fascinated with snipers. I'm not so sure why. It was never really my area. I mean, I'll talk about it, but everybody loves sniping for some reason. Everybody, you see people or kids grow up in high school and they're like, "Oh, I want to go in the Army and be a sniper." And
well, now you got movies like the American Sniper.
Yeah. I forgot about American Sniper. You're right.
Yeah.
It's its own specialty, and it's almost arcane. The science behind it. And those guys are great. I mean, they're great at what they do. And they can hit long shots. And, you want a guy that can hit a hostage, not hit the hostage target, hit the bad guy target, excuse me, with a semi covered by a hostage target. You want guys that are extremely accurate at long range. But I don't really want to go too much into what equipment they have. Number one, because it wasn't, The two sergeants on our team divide up the duties. I had the breaching guys, and the other sergeant had the sniper guys.
Okay.
It's just a personal preference. I don't personally find anything all that entertaining about sniping, so more power to them, but it's just not my area. Breaching was. So
if let's say you're a dedicated sniper, you got I know you have your breaching team. Those are the guys that are going to be going in. Is that a separate entity? Do you guys not have a connection? Like, are you guys all in the same roll call room? Are you guys?
Yeah. So basically, you had Squad 1 and Squad 2, and on each one of those teams, you had guys who specialized in different things.
Yes.
So there was overlap. You might have 3 or 4 guys on Squad 1, 3 or 4 guys on Squad 2 that were snipers, and you might have 3 or 4 guys on Squad 1 that were breachers, and 3 or 4 guys on Squad 2 that were breachers. So those were your two main specialty areas, and then you had some guys that had taken on additional responsibilities of being on the high angle assault team, which is the rope teams and stuff like that. I think they have a waterborne capability now, so there's guys that are specializing in that as well. We're all one big unit. We all deploy as one big unit. Mm-hmm. Depending on how the rotation was going, who had the last operation, that kind of thing, that would determine which squad was going to be on entry, if we were going to make an entry, and which squad was going to take perimeter.
Okay.
So you basically set up, when you do your tactical footprint, you have a perimeter team, because our main job in any kind of situation, let's say a barricaded person, hostage situation, anything like that, the first thing we need to do is we need to contain it. We don't want it to get, to expand out into public. So we need to contain it. We're going to keep it where it is.
Okay.
Set a perimeter, right? And then any operations that take place inside that perimeter are going to be handled by either your perimeter guys or you have an entry element. So on our team, the way we worked, it was team 1 would be up, on entry. Next one, team 2 would be up on entry. So they would flip-flop responsibilities.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair. I was just curious because the way it sounds like the snipers are they're kind of separate.
They're their own little section. I mean, they go off and do their sniper training. We trained as a team every Monday. Mm-hmm. So every Monday was training day. And then usually on Tuesdays, that's when the specialty groups would break out and do their specialty training. That's provided we weren't doing operations. And that got kind of difficult for a while there. We had a pretty hard and fast rule for a long time that Mondays was strictly for training. That started to slip a little bit because there were so many operations going on. But that was one of my big things, and I would get into arguments about it with other units and stuff. It's like, no, Monday's our training day, period.
Okay. So if you guys, let's say training day is your dedicated training day, who's taking those when you can't? Who's taking those up? Who's taking those up?
Thing as can't. We would.
Who's taking those if you guys were wrapped up?
Nobody. We would bail on training and we would go do the live op, because one live op is worth how many reps of training?
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Generally, the argument is about 10.
Okay.
So one live operation equals 10 reps in training, roughly. So,
okay, I gotcha.
No, there was no turning down a job because we were doing training.
All right.
If somebody came to us with a mission, then we would do it. But one of my things was, is this such an emergency that, there's a difference between a call out and a narcotics warrant.
Okay. That's what I was getting at, because the way you made it sound was like,
no, if you call, we're going. If it's a call out, we're going. But
some of the call outs weren't legit.
A narcotics warrant is not an emergency.
Gotcha.
I mean, there were one or two that I could maybe see because there were certain intelligence that we had or that was given to us. Might have been considered an emergency, but the vast majority of them were not. So did we really need to reschedule training around it?
Mm-hmm.
No, we did not.
All right.
No, and I apologize. Narcotics warrants were most of our business, but that wasn't our only business.
Right.
So if we got a call out, like an emergency, like a hostage situation or a barricaded person, or early on we would handle suicidal people, stuff like that. Then we would break down training and we'd just go to the call out.
All right.
So
we've covered the firearms as far as sniper rifles, pistols, AR-15 platform, flashbangs. What else we got?
You have launchers. So you have 40 millimeter launchers. Those are primarily designed to launch chemical agents like tear gas,
all right,
or OC, pepper spray.
Oh, so you got OC for the 40 millimeter?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
They make all kind of stuff for the 40 millimeter.
All right.
If you can imagine it, that somebody's making it.
T-shirts.
Yeah, T-shirt launchers. Yeah. If you want a round that fires, nails out of the gun, somebody will make that.
I'm just picturing a roll call. You guys sitting around like, all right, who can answer?
We could come up with.
Who can answer this question? Oh, Rogers, you get a T-shirt. Boom.
That'd be sweet,
right?
I have to come up with that
right in the chest.
Yeah, there you go. What else did we have? We had a couple other specialty tools, but as far as something that you pulled the trigger on and went bang, that was pretty much the extent of it. I mean, there are some agencies that have much larger capabilities. Like I'm gonna put them out on blast here. Los Angeles County, not LA City, the county.
Mm-hmm.
They have a Chinook helicopter, and they have 1 or 2 M60 machine guns.
Oh my God!
I don't remember how many. I think they have at least one. But yeah, can you imagine having a Chinook helicopter as a SWAT team?
Do they think they're going to fight the cartels?
No, but you have a lot of ground to cover, and you have to get somewhere quickly. So
I could
you need to have that air mobile capability.
Yeah.
Even as big as our city's getting, you can generally get there pretty quick.
If you're wondering
what running code.
If you're wondering what an M60 is, think Rambo.
Yeah.
Early Rambo.
When
he's just holding that belt-fed weapon in one arm and it. That's an M60.
So I know for a fact they had one. They may have had 2, and for all I know, they might have upgraded by now. So
wow, that's pretty cool.
But that's an agency that's running around in a huge metropolitan area,
right?
So I mean, they have a lot of
different needs
to cover, different needs, different tactical needs.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, as much as I've heard about California, it just surprises me that they were able to swing that, because they don't seem like the state that would allow that.
You wouldn't think so, really, but yeah.
But in Texas, I could see that.
Oh, all over the place. I could see DPS breaking those out.
Yeah, like, hey, we need 2 Apaches out here. DPS has those.
I would like to say that I've never seen a group of guys so huge in my life as the DPS SWAT guys.
Oh,
they're all monsters. Right? Every one of them that I've seen.
We just were talking about how DPS. Okay, so fun. First off, shout out to Steve Oliver. Guys, my AC went up. Gino was supposed to be here Sunday. Mm-hmm. It's now Tuesday. And Gino was supposed to be here Sunday, and I called him and said, hey, man, we can still do the podcast, but we're going to be sweating our asses off in this room.
Nope.
So I called retired DPS trooper Steve Oliver, who's a friend of mine. I actually taught a class. I'm sorry, he taught a class at a place that I work, and it was for CIT, crisis intervention training stuff, and we became friends from that one class. And he was just about to retire, and he's like, "Hey, if you guys ever need an AC guy," he's like, "I try to take care of all first responders, so just let me know." So I put his number down on my phone. I knew I had an old AC unit, and sure as shit, I ended up having to use it. So call him up, "Steve, my AC went out, man." He's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. It's good to hear from you." I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I tell him, he comes out while we're talking. He's like, "Yeah, man, traffic was kind of a pain. Sorry for being late." I was like, "Where are you coming from?" "Oh, about an hour away." Dude drove an hour.
Wow.
Just to
come take a look at your
assess
AC?
it. Yeah.
Better keep that guy.
So he assesses it, and then he's like, "I think I need this part for it." My motor went out basically for the outside fan unit. Yeah, it seized up, and my unit's like 14 years old. So
You're due.
fair enough. So I was like expecting the worst, and he comes here and he's like, "Yeah, I'll go see if I can find a replacement motor for it." Calls me back the next day. "Found your motor." Comes out. Motor was everything I got done. Everything he did for me was under $100.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
So-
all. You need to keep it. You better have some
man.
cards for that guy. You need to give him
So-
another shout out right now.
Yeah, so yeah, Steve, when he's gonna get mad at me, "Man, I just started listening to your podcast."
I'll
So
tell you what, that's a good guy to have.
yeah,
around,
he's a good,
especially around.
yeah, and that's the thing about Steve. He's just a good guy. Like,
Is he a big old fella? Because
No,
that's how we got onto this. Because the DPS SWAT guys.
he's not. He's not. Like, he's probably. He's not. He's not a real tall guy. He's not that dude. But he wasn't a SWAT guy in DPS either.
Well,
so
fair
he does have the Popeye forearms.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, for sure. So Steve, saved my butt. I gave him a 6-pack of 903. It's called Charms.
Okay.
It looks like
What's that
Lucky
got in
Charms.
it?
I have 2
Does it
cans
have Lucky
left.
Charms in it or something?
It's a cream ale that's supposed to be. It's 10.7.
Oh.
So
I have not been able to nail down the cream ale style.
oh,
I don't know what to make of it.
I love it. It's a
Really?
it's a
I'll have to
lactose
try
thing.
that.
So
If I can find a good one. Good cream ales are hard to come by.
I got one in the fridge. When you leave, I'll give it to you.
All right.
So
Here's what occurred to me. So what I'm going to do, if you want, I'll go ahead just for your listeners and run you through a standard call out.
okay.
What it's like to be in SWAT.
Before we do
Go
that,
ahead.
have we covered all the weapons?
All the ones I'm going to talk about.
All the major ones.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. We don't want to give up any tactics or anything like that.
I don't want to give up any too much operational stuff.
I got you. Okay. My bad. I wasn't
I didn't
thinking
think
about
so.
that. I'm just trying to educate the public.
I hear
in
you.
case
I
they
hear you.
want
It's
it.
just I have to. I'm walking a fine line here, so
I hear you. Okay. So yeah, walk me through.
Okay, so what a lot of people don't realize, and especially, any SWAT guy, you're on call 24/7.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
Again.
24/7, 365. Now, we do schedule people to be off call, but you want to be there for the operation. If the big operation goes there, you want to be there, right? You don't want to miss stuff. So most of the guys don't take a lot of time off call, and you pay for it later on. But
If you miss it,
no, I'm just saying you pay for that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're married, or,
it can be tough on families. A lot of people don't realize that because most of us have families. I mean, we have wives, kids, and all that kind of stuff. And, I joke that I left the house one day for SWAT when my son was 4 and I came home and he was 8.
Oh.
But it was like that for
hurts.
a while there.
Yeah.
So, and actually that was one of the saddest things that ever happened was my son was just talking to me. We were in the kitchen and my wife was standing there and my son was probably, 7 or 8 at the time. And we were talking about something and the call out went off,
Yeah.
And I literally stopped in the middle of my sentence, grabbed my phone and walked out of the room because I had to go get changed. And I heard him in the background. He's like, "What happened? Where's he going?" And my wife was like, "He's got to go to work." It was a Sunday or something.
Didn't understand
like that.
it yet.
I felt, he knew I was in SWAT, but he didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So, or he didn't really understand the amount of work that has to be done.
I try to tell that to
sacrifice.
people. Everybody wants the title. Nobody understands the responsibility.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So anyways, you're sound asleep. It's 2, 3 in the morning because nothing ever happens before then, right? So it's 1 or 2 in the morning, and your phone goes off, and we had a recording. It would be our lieutenant, or our lieutenant would be like, "This is Lieutenant so and so," and we have a SWAT call out at blah. Give you the address, and they give you some basic details: hostage rescue, barricaded person, whatever. A few details, and sometimes they'd repeat it, and that was it. So you got up. We had a system in place where you checked on your partner to make sure they got the call out so that they didn't miss it.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. And you got dressed and out the door and start driving. Now, we all had take-home vehicles. We still have take-home vehicles. And you go lights and sirens to wherever it is that you need to go to. And so when you show up on scene, usually it'll come out on the radio, or the supervisors like me or the other supervisors at the time, they'll announce, team 1's got perimeter, team 2's got perimeter, whoever had perimeter that time. And so once you get on scene, you immediately work on perimeter containment. So whatever team had perimeter would start setting up perimeter. That includes, sniper overwatch, the 40 millimeters, because you're going to employ any gas or anything like that from the perimeter.
Yeah.
If there were charges that need to be built, like explosive charges or anything like that, the perimeter guys start working on that. But it's for containment.
Is patrol already out there set up?
Generally speaking, patrol would call, and sometimes a ZT unit or an SRT unit would be out there already, have it set up, but then we're going to set it, the way we want to, or the way that we're trained to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your perimeter team out, you get an entry element set up, because normally what you want to do is you want to be set and ready to go before something kicks off. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a barricaded person. He's got a parole violation. He's doing, I'm not going back to jail thing. He did something. He just fired off a gun, stabbed somebody, whatever. So you set your perimeter so that he does not have the option of getting away. Okay, so we may have to disable vehicles, or we will do whatever we have to do that. You have a entry team that gets set up, and what their job really is, we don't generally make entry on a barricaded person situation. We're going to make that person come to us. So you basically want to set up a team that's going to receive that person once we get them, convince them to come out of their home.
Okay.
So, but they are the close contact team. So you do have sniper overwatch, and you have, people running the chemical agents and stuff on the perimeter. But your emergency action team, emergency arrest team, whatever you want to call them, they set up in a location nearby so that they're available. Should that person come out to surrender, they go ahead and we go through the surrender ritual, take them into custody. Alternatively, let's say it's a possible hostage rescue scenario. That entry team is preparing to breach at least one of the entries into the house, sometimes more than one. And what they're preparing to do is to make a forced entry and to rescue hostages. So being on the EAT, in my opinion, is a little more fun. It's more engaging, but the perimeter has its challenges as well. So, but once you get on scene, that's what's going to happen. You're going to set up. And if it's a barricaded person, you're going to be out there anywhere from, let's see, I would say the shortest one I ever went on was maybe 15 minutes, because we showed up, the guy looked out his window, saw that SWAT was there, and he came out.
Said, fuck that.
Yep, said, fuck this, and came out. And the longest one I ever did was 7.5 hours.
Oh.
Yep.
And I'm sure that happened like after.
It was at dark 30.
So you'd been up all day.
Right. We got called in. It was a Sunday. It was into a Monday morning. So we got called in at like 11:30, and it was in domestic. And the guy had barricaded himself in his house after he'd beat his mom up, and his mom had gotten out, and his girlfriend had gotten out. Well, somehow the girlfriend ends up convincing patrol that she can talk him out. So she goes ahead and she's like, well, I'll just go in through one of the windows. It's open all the time. So patrol agrees to this, and we're not there obviously, but patrol agrees to this. And she goes in and immediately slams the window shut, locks it, flips everybody off, and basically says, fuck you, go get a warrant.
Good for her.
Yep. Yeah. She knows her rights. Fair enough. And I can appreciate that. And one thing people don't realize, we don't just go running around busting into houses. Everything that we do is under the legal authority of a warrant.
So you guys take the time to get a warrant.
We have to get a warrant. That's why SWAT call-outs take so long sometimes, is because you've got to wake up a detective who's going to come in all sleepy, and he's going to have to get all the details for the house, and then he's going to have to go write the warrant.
You don't have your own dedicated?
They do now. We used to not.
Oh, shit.
So you'd wait sometimes 3-4 hours for a warrant to get signed.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, what we're doing in the meantime is we're trying to make contact with the person.
So you don't need the warrant.
Right, so we don't need the warrant.
Yeah.
Now, there are, of course, exigent circumstances will allow you to make entry, but we'll go into that another time. But everything that we do, whether it's breaching a door, breaking a window, putting a robot in, whatever, that is all done under the authority of a warrant. So that's why a lot of times SWAT call-outs take a while, because we're waiting on somebody to write a warrant for us. Oh, we won't act until we have that warrant. But once that starts, that's when we actually...
Unless you hear shooting or something like that.
Right. If you hear shooting, that's your exigent circumstance.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, they just barricaded up. They flipped us off a couple more times. We tried to convince them to come out, tried calling them on their phones and stuff. Mm-hmm. And finally, it was a non-starter. So we're out there waiting and waiting and waiting. But once we finally got the authority to do so, we started implementing a chemical agent plan, a gas plan.
Yeah.
But it took a while. It was a very odd layout on the house, and the gas wasn't getting where it needed to go. And so I think it was 7:30 when we got off, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know, 6:30 maybe when we finally got it done. So it's Monday morning. A couple of us are like, we'll send the guys home, but narcotics wanted us to run a warrant at 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. So a couple of us stayed because we had to do a reconnaissance on the warrant location and everything else. So we run the warrant, and I think I got home at 7:30. So I've been gone since 11:30 the night before, right? So I sit down and I'm eating, and all I could get in was a bowl of soup. And I had one uniform at the time because I was new to the unit, and it's in the wash because it's covered with gas and everything else. And no lie, it's 8:00, and the call out,
another call
out goes off. So I'm sitting there, and I took I finished my soup, and I just threw my spoon down on the table, and
just angry.
You're tired, you're angry, and I'm like, my stuff's in the wash, and it was that my wife goes, "Well, you're either SWAT or you're not."
Oh,
and I was like, "Really?"
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, easy for you to say. So it was pretty funny. It was well timed, but
that is funny.
Yeah,
damn,
that was a long. I think we got out of that one at about midnight. So
the next that.
We got on scene about 8:30, and I think we were out there till about midnight.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So it was just a long 24 hours.
Nice. God, that had to be a good paycheck.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this: definitely you do make up for it with your paycheck.
Your paycheck comes in handy.
You make
never no time to spend the money, but
you hand that to your chief financial officer at home,
and
she
AKA
that,
wife.
Yep,
yeah,
got the wife, right?
Yep.
So that's your typical call out. You're going to go out. It's going to be a barricaded person. You show up, set up, wait, hurry up and wait, right? And then when things kick off, then we're going to start doing the things that we do operationally to convince somebody to come out. Now, to be fair, this whole time, we're sitting there trying to make contact with the person, loud hailing, telling them to come out, surrender themselves.
Now, what are you doing with the surrounding citizens? People, if they're in a residential area or you're around a business area or anything like that,
we're evacuating them.
You're getting them the hell out of there.
Yeah, if it's a business, we're going to evacuate the immediate suites next door. Hopefully the whole thing, if it's like one of those little strip malls. We will employ the SRT units sometimes to do that for us, or hopefully they've already started to do it.
Patrol, whoever.
It also happens where you'll get something in an apartment complex, so you've got to evacuate sometimes the whole building based on the threat, because rifle rounds go through walls.
Travel, yeah.
Yeah, they go through a lot of walls.
Okay.
So you're moving citizens out of the immediate danger area. Yeah. And that can take a little while, but you're doing that while you're waiting for the warrant to get there.
And I don't think I need to ask you this question, but for any citizens that are out there listening, if you see a SWAT vehicle and you see a SWAT team You're going to know because it's all labeled. If you see that, is it a good idea to get your phone out and start recording that?
You know what? I don't have a problem being recorded.
I don't have a problem being recorded.
I never have. There's nothing illegal about it. If somebody wants to record me, well, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And frankly, we're all recording at the same time, anyways.
Right.
But we all have body cameras on the gear. You know, most of us ran it on our helmets.
Yeah.
Some of us on our vests.
But from a safety aspect for themselves, if you see SWAT, now that they understand what you guys are doing, and that's the kind of the point of this podcast is, one, I want people to have understanding that these guys are out here. They're not out here for mundane things. It's always a high risk issue.
Right.
And if it is a high risk issue, and we're talking about rifle rounds,
probably should not be standing out in the street. And we have had multiple times where we've had to push the perimeter back. We'll have patrol pushing people back because that, you know, you get your looky-loos out there who want to see what's going on. And, you know, but so we're constantly trying to push them back. And, you know, we're fairly successful at that because we have to operate inside the center perimeter. Patrol or whoever is conducting our outer perimeter.
Yeah.
So you really have two perimeters going.
Yep.
And you're trying to keep everybody pushed back from there. And that actually reminds me something that you just said a minute ago. You know, we'd be out on stuff and invariably some citizen would come up and be like, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
And I am terribly sarcastic, especially when I'm tired. But it's just part of my sense of humor. And to me, it's funny. But I guess probably to citizens,
as long as I'm laughing.
Not, right.
Yeah.
So, you know, people come up and they're like, is everything okay? And I'm like, obviously not if I'm here. So,
yeah.
I mean, what they really want to know is what's going on. And I don't have a problem. Just ask me the question and I'll tell you what's going on. Yeah. But if what you're going to ask me is everything okay? No, not at all.
And one of the points, this is exactly one of the things I was, in the very first episode I talked about was community policing.
Yeah.
I try to make it a point for any officer that's out there listening, knowing the difference between stuff that you shouldn't be divulging, secrets, and then the secret squirrel approach that we have. Where if you're that officer that's out there on the scene with SWAT, you're not taking part in any of the fun stuff. Your job is just to keep people back, make sure they stay safe.
Right.
If a citizen walks up and is curious about what's going on, that's the time. That's the time to let them know, like, without giving any specifics, hey, we got a hostage situation.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Just say, look, we have a hostage situation down the street.
Right.
Or we have we have a guy with warrants down the street who's refusing to come out of his house. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. They just want to know what's going on.
Give them some basic stuff. It's their area. They live there.
Correct.
I think they have a right to know certain things.
I don't have a problem telling them.
Yeah.
It's not some big secret.
Right.
You know, I mean,
I'm not going to say, you know, Squad 2 is about to move in 30 seconds on the A side of the house. You know, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. But I mean, I have no problem being recorded. I have no problem telling people this is what's going on. I just personally find it amusing that people do the roundabout question of, you know, is everything okay?
Right.
And, you know, I've even been known to respond with, oh, well, it is now that you're here.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Everything okay? Yeah, it's wonderful. We just wanted to get the cars out, wanted to get the team out.
They need to get out, have a barbecue.
We actually have a picnic basket we were about to set up on this guy's porch. So,
but I don't know that I win any friends that way. But you know, just ask me what you really want to know. If you want to know what's going on, I'll tell you. It's no big deal.
I try to tell people, first responders have a dark sense of humor. Yes, we do. Military have a dark sense of humor.
And if you're both, it's even worse.
Nobody has a darker sense of humor than ER nurses.
Yeah, they can.
Nobody.
They're pretty dark.
ER nurses are the worst. They gross me out. They figure
really?
out. I mean, not just what they do. I mean, their sick sense of humor.
I worked around some of them when I was working at Harris off duty. I never thought they were that dark, but it's certainly not at the level that I'm capable of reaching.
Oh man!
But I'm that guy that always takes it a little too far.
Right. Here's the line.
I have to walk it back just a little bit.
Step over the line. Just see where everybody's at.
It's I like feel out the room.
It's a temperature gauge. Yeah.
Right. Fill out the room and then you walk it back one step.
Right. Okay. That's the line. I see it now.
Good to go.
I'll stay here.
So I will tell you that, you know, people are fascinated by what we do and how we do it. And I get asked a lot of questions about, well, aren't you scared when you're doing that? And the answer is no. I signed up to do this, right?
Yeah.
I signed up to, and I'm going to say this, and people can disagree with me, our operations are dangerous. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of unknowns that you learn to adapt to deal with. And there's a human element with the quote unquote bad guy, whoever that may be, that you have to deal with. But it was the closest to being back in the military that I can recall. And that's why I liked it so much, was because you had a small group of officers that you work with every single day. You train with them, you work with them, you know their capabilities, you know what they're going to do. They know what you're going to do. You trust them.
It's family.
It's family.
Yeah.
So you don't feel scared, in my opinion. You're more scared of letting them down and doing something stupid than you are of anything that the bad guy is going to do, in my opinion. I enjoyed the brotherhood of it. It was, like I said, the closest thing that I came to being back in the military.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. That's just my personality. I worked with a good couple of guys in the Army too. You know, I had some good stuff going on in there, but that's why I liked SWAT so much. There was very much of that same camaraderie.
Yeah.
And esprit de corps that goes on.
There's a camaraderie in police work. There's a camaraderie in, I think the specialized units, it becomes more of a bond than it ever does when you start in patrol.
Yeah.
Now,
there are some patrol teams that are very close.
There's a closeness, but it's not near as how it gets onto a specialized unit. Specialized units have a closer bond, but then you have SWAT. I honestly, I don't know many other bonds other than K9 that have that type of, and when I say K9, I mean the K9 officer and his animal, not the whole K9 unit. Not the
whole K9.
Yeah.
Well, I tell people there's a couple things that make really good teams, in my opinion. Number one, shared suffering. Because it's easy to be a fair weather team, right? It's easy to be hardcore in good weather.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine tell me that in the Army. He was a Green Beret. He told me that. He goes, it's easy to be hardcore in good weather.
Yes.
So, and I remember we were out on an operation and it just started raining cats and dogs, and it was hot and humid right before that. And then lightning started hitting all around us, and then it started raining on us. So like we had our own personal rain cloud. And I turned to my co-sergeant, Danny Davis at the time. We just started laughing because I mean, what else do you do, right?
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of shared suffering because you work hard. The PT's hard. You go run obstacle courses together. The training's hard. Mm-hmm. And the training is always, it's never, how often you get a perfect 70-degree day where it's nice and a nice, light breeze from the north coming in, right? No, it's always hot and humid, and you've got 40 to 60 pounds of gear on, and you're trying to get in a prone position so you can fire your rifle in a certain amount of time, and your helmet's rolling down over your head because the collar on your vest is pushing the helmet forward over your eyes, and it's knocking the eye protection you have on out of place, and then it's knocking your headset, your earphones, it's knocking them out of position, so now they're not doing their job.
Right.
Now you're hot, miserable, dirty, right, sweat in your eyes, and now you're going deaf.
Sting is
now you're going deaf because the Ear Pro isn't on correctly, and you're trying to make all this happen and shoot accurately under time.
Yeah.
So that's more the typical experience, or it's cold as hell, or it's cold and raining.
Yep.
But when I was in the Army as a sergeant, I would tell my guys that there's 4 things that you can be as a soldier. They're cold, tired, wet, and hungry, right? If you're any 3 of those 4 at the same time, I will listen to you bitch about it. But you have a God-given right to bitch as a soldier. If you're any 3 out of 4 or more, I will listen to you. If you're 2 or less, then I'm not going to go talk to somebody.
Get out of my
else,
face.
Right? Get out of my face. And my one caveat or exception to that is wounded. If you're wounded, you're allowed to bitch as much as you want.
Okay.
So
I know we're joking, but I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I've tried to emphasize to anybody that works with me. Like, if you're going to be on my team, I'm an optimist and I'm a glass half full guy. 99% of the time, I do have my moments where it just, I can't be that guy all the time.
But you're like 99% you're an optimist?
Yes.
That must be wonderful.
It is. It's great.
It's a great place to be.
It is. It really is. And when I look at successful, small, specialized units, most guys are that way. They can see the fun in anything that they're doing, and just embrace it. Embrace the suck. There's actually a reason behind that, because if you dwell on it, the team's going to suffer.
The suck is temporary.
Yeah,
it's all temporary, right?
Right.
Even 7.5 hours into an operation, it's going to be done eventually.
Yeah.
So you may not know when that is, but that's part of being part of that unit, right? That's part of the selection process. That's part of what makes you special.
Yes.
Is you're willing to embrace that suck for an unknown amount of time with unknown factors, and you're just going to keep on going.
Yep.
Right.
And I've heard some SEAL team guys talk on some podcasts, mostly Rogan's podcast, and I've noticed that trend with these units. It's always the same thing. It's like they look at the fun, or I know it isn't fun, but they turn it into fun for themselves.
Well, I'll run something past you real quick. You went through Air Force basic training, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
all 8.5 weeks, 6.5 weeks, something
4
like
weeks,
yeah,
weekends off, type thing. No.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was really hard because the masseuse was off that week. So
that's terrible. Really,
I like getting to sleep.
Your recruiter lied to you.
Yeah, like the AC was off, and I was not having it.
So here's my point. What do you remember from basic training? The funny stuff.
The funny stuff. Yeah.
Remember, yeah.
Oh my God.
Even the getting yelled at.
Yes.
Is funny now.
So
right?
let me tell you. You brought this up, so it's in my head. I'm talking about it. So you want to talk about the funny stuff? I'm in line for chow. Now, you know how it is. Your platoon, your flight, whatever you want to call it. You're all in line. You're standing at parade rest. So your hands are behind your back, but you're kind of, it's like an Eddie's position.
It's more of an Eddie's. But
yeah, so you're like at an Eddie's position. Now, you're not allowed to talk, and you're not allowed to look around. You should be still looking straight forward and not doing anything.
Correct.
So we're standing in line, and I hear, and I didn't know what the fuck that was at first. So I hear it again. I look up in the rafters. We're under these, like, you know, staying out of the sun.
Right.
We're under these rafters, and I see like 5 or 6 pigeons up there. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stare at these guys. Give me something to look at.
Yeah, right. So take the monotony out of it.
Male pigeon, big chested pigeon. He's got 2 females, and he is going to town on them. I mean, just
so you guys to watch a pigeon threesome while you're
ravaging them, and I mean, I cannot keep my shit together.
I would have died laughing.
I'm laughing in silent torture, like everything's bouncing,
tears running down your face because you're trying not to laugh.
So what does my dumbass do? I kick the guy's heel right in front of me to try to get him to look up. I got caught. I feel the brim of a Smokey the Bear on my neck. And he pulls me out. What is so goddamn funny that you have to break up my formation? Da 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 da. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a chance. And he's got the knife handed the shit out of me. Yes. He's like, I'm gonna give you a chance. You make me laugh. You make me laugh, and I won't make you push till you die. You know, one of those. Yeah. He just in my shit. I'm like, sir, permission to move freely. Oh, and he takes his hat off. He's like, you got to be shitting me. You're really gonna do that? He's like, by all means, make a production. Show me. So you see those pigeons up there? Now I'm older. I didn't go in at 18. I went in at 24. So I went in May. So all these were fresh high school graduates that were on my team for the most part. So yeah. So I had life experience at the time. And so I'm like, sir, you see those pigeons up there? And I didn't really get riled up.
Right.
It didn't. I was, wasn't 18. So he's like, yep, I see those goddamn pigeons. He loved GDs all day. Yeah. All right, sir. The middle one, the dark gray one with the green on his chest. He's like, this better be goddamn good. Just watch him, sir. He's like, I'll give you a minute. I was like, you want me to get in the push-up position? He goes, you might as well.
You might as well hit.
You might as well. So I dropped down. He's like, I don't want you to think I'm cheating. You watch me. I'm like, all right. So I'm watching the drill sergeant while I'm on the ground. I look up at him. All of a sudden, that pigeon, like on cue, starts just tapping that ass, wailing away. And I mean, he's making the noises. And sure as shit, the drill instructor turned away from me. I see his shoulders bounce a little bit, And he walks away, and he gets almost out of view, and he goes, "Levine, recover." And I got him.
You got it.
So at the end of boot, you got your family there, and you're showing him your locker and doing all that shit. He's like, his name was Sergeant White. He's like, "Levine, front center." "Yes, sir." "You're the first one to broke me."
You know what? At least he admitted.
Yep, he was a good guy about it. So that was pretty funny. So,
and that's the thing.
But those are the stories.
That's part of embracing the suck, right? Because basic training sucks.
Yeah.
I don't care what version of it you go through, right? So, I mean, I can remember when I was in basic, I think the second day there, I mean, we're just getting smoked. Like, we're getting our balls smoked off. Yeah. We're doing push-ups. When you get, just flip over and do flutter kicks, flip over, do push-up, flip over, do flutter. And we've been doing this for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. My hands slip out from under me from the sweat and everything, and I fall on my face. And I'm thinking to myself, I have made a horrible mistake here.
What did I do?
What have I done?
I volunteered.
Right.
What an idiot.
Then I remember having this moment of clarity where I just was like, you know what? Literally millions of guys just like me have gone through this same exact thing.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that I can't do it. And that was the last time that I ever had the thought of quitting anything. I actually, going in, I signed up as an MP, but my actual plan was to make E5 sergeant, and then I wanted to try out for special forces. And eventually my hope was to go to Delta. Now, I grant you that's a pretty lofty goal, and probably would not have made it. But that being said, I wanted that was what my goal was. And I had the good fortune in Korea while I was assigned there on that SRT over there. I got to train with some Green Berets. And funny story, 30 years ago, they taught us how to clear rooms the way they do, right?
Okay.
So 30 years later, I'm in a training class with a former Delta Force guy, and he starts teaching us how to clear rooms, and it's the exact same thing, step for step.
No shit.
Nope. And I even pointed that out to him, and he goes, "Yeah, we've been doing this since World War II." He goes, "It works.
It works."
And I'm not going to go into any huge detail about it, but it's a pretty simple way of clearing rooms. And I get that question sometimes is, "Oh, how do you guys clear rooms?" And do these teams do it different? And do the Israelis do it different? Blah blah. Yes, the Israelis do it different.
Yeah.
And there's arguments that go on all the time between us and one of the other large teams around here because they do it a little different than we do, right? But the basics are pretty much the same. And honestly, there's only so many ways to clear a room. And by that same token, there's only so many ways to clear a building. What differentiates us from any other special operations unit is how we get there.
Yeah.
Infiltration, exfiltration. So we don't parachute in and hump 10 clicks to get on our target, right? We drive in on a van and run off the van, and so that's how we do things. And honestly, I'll tell you one of the best parts about being part of that is when you're driving up to the target, right? So you may have a 20, 25 minute drive when you're going up on like a warrant, a narcotics warrant or something. And we are sitting there joking around and busting each other's balls.
Just shit talking
the whole way until you get the 2-minute call.
Yeah.
And then everybody shuts up. Everybody
the red light turns on in the airplane.
You get the 2-minute call, and everybody gets to work.
Yeah.
You go to work. You get your 30-second call. Everybody's ready to go. Get off the truck. Go handle business. Get back on the truck. And on the way back, the shit talking starts again.
So, did you see the way Gino tripped over that step going up?
You know what? Let me tell you something. The mistakes that I've made and the mistakes that other people make. And then it's even worse now because you catch it on video.
Right.
So
that's a good point, and it's important to note that even SWAT officers, you're not even in patrol. You guys are wearing body cameras, probably multiple. Some of them
they do now. When I was over there, you had to have at least one on a planned entry, but since then the rule is now they have to all have. I think they all have to have one.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
a lot of people sit there and tell you that it's bad because we're going to give away operational tactics. That's true, maybe to an extent, if somebody's going to watch it on YouTube.
Right.
Well, but our videos don't get downloaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
They're on a secure server, so they're there for people to review securely.
Use of force reviews and stuff like that. If there's a
Our
question.
my big argument, or anybody else's argument at the supervisor or command level, is somebody might be able to see our tactics on YouTube, but it won't be from one of my guys giving them the video.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think as a supervisor of a tactical unit, the major benefit that I see on the surface is improving training.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You
use them for review for training, and actually every one of our operations we will do an after action review.
Yes,
I've done
yeah,
obviously over 1,000 after action reviews, and they're important. They're so critical because you go over what went right, but more importantly, you go over what went wrong.
Yep.
And every one I've ever been to, pretty much somebody had something to say. And the smart thing to do is if you do something stupid or you make a mistake, you call yourself out. That's part of being on the team. You call yourself out and say, hey, I screwed this up.
Yeah.
And that's pretty humiliating. And I've had to do it before. I made a couple mistakes that were serious enough,
Right.
that they could have got somebody hurt.
Yeah.
You got to stand up in front of everybody and you've got to tell them what you did.
Yeah.
But that keeps you humble. I think a lot of people are under the impression that SWAT guys are very arrogant.
Yeah.
Which is probably something you've seen or heard, or you got certain groups that are like, oh, that was SWAT guys, or a bunch of blah 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 blah.
I've heard it, but I've never personally, any of the SWAT guys I've been around.
Once you talk to them, they're not that way.
And I think I just had a unique ability because I was around them all the time while training or being down at the academy. So we just happened to be neighbors, and I see them a lot. And then, not to mention, you guys would do training with recruits.
Yeah, we come in and train, or sometimes I know we'll come out and roll with the recruits or roll with you guys.
I'm going to grab another one.
Okay. So one thing I did want to comment on is the whole, people think that we're arrogant, and is that another turning point right there?
It is. That's you.
Oh, that's
sorry, guys. We're quick break. You son of a bitch. I'm in. That's
Yep.
what we're drinking.
Turning Point does a lot of Rick and Morty themed beers, and I love it because Rick and Morty's one of the best shows on TV. Yeah. I love it. So I'm going to say this: I never met a SWAT guy that was arrogant. Thank you, but I have met a lot of guys that are supremely confident, and I think that's a positive thing. I'm going to tell you why. You have kids. Yeah, probably anybody in the audience who's got kids. I'm going to ask you a quick question. If your child has been taken hostage, do you want somebody to go into that room to rescue your child that thinks he could make a shot? Or do you want somebody to go in who is confident that he will make that shot?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
The one that's confident he will make that shot.
You want the one that is confident that he is going to make that shot.
Yeah.
And that, I will tell you, that is probably a personality trait that a lot of SWAT guys have, is because of the amount of training, the amount of practice, the amount of work they have put in. They are supremely confident that when necessary, they will do what needs to be done, and that they can do it. I'm not the best rifle shot in the world. I'm decent. I'm more than decent with a rifle, but with a handgun, I'm really, really good. Yeah. I know I am.
But you're also comparing yourself to your peers, not the general population.
That's true. But I know I'm even good compared to my peers.
Right. But what I'm saying is your rifle ability is probably really good. You're saying it's subpar, but you're looking at yourself.
I'm comparing it with other SWAT guys. Yeah. So is it arrogant for me to say that? Is that pretty good?
Oh, man.
I'm going to have to crack that one open in a minute. Is it arrogant for me to say that? I don't think so. I've put the work in.
Yeah.
I've been shooting handguns since I was 20. And I've worked to get really good at it and to do it accurately under pressure.
Right.
So why would I sit there and say, well, I'm not very good at it. Well, yeah, maybe I could probably make the shot if I had to, but
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's something Wheeler taught me as far as officers that get hurt or get in trouble often is because of hesitation and a lack of confidence. And that hesitation and lack of confidence comes from a lack of training.
Agreed.
So if your training is at this level, let's just use SWAT. It's up
Sure.
here. You've gained the confidence through the experience of the training
And the live ops.
and then when you go into real world, you put that training to the test. You're successful. Not only are you successful, you have your after action, and
you're critical of
and
your
you're
success.
critical, and you're being criticized by the top of the food chain when it comes to that type of training. And nobody's going to be more critical on you than yourself and your team. So that, I think, goes into kind of what Wheeler's saying. If you are trained, you're going to be confident naturally because of that training. And if your training's at that level of what SWAT is, there's where that stigma may stem from, but it's for a reason. It's because of the supreme training and proof in the pudding.
That's the amount of work that you put in.
That you
and
put
you
into
know
it.
what you're capable of, right? So, and I'm going to compare that. You do BJJ.
Jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Do you compete?
I don't anymore.
You don't anymore, but
I
you
did
did
at one time,
right? So how much more confident are you now if you have to put your hands on somebody than maybe when you were 27?
Oh, and this is my arrogant answer. I'm going to fuck them up. Like,
Yeah.
they ain't got a chance.
They don't have a chance, right? And, you know, I don't do jiu-jitsu.
And when I say fuck them up, folks, I don't mean I'm going to hurt them. I mean, they're going to have zero. They're going to be like a rock in the water. They're
going to be all over them, like, you know, whatever comparison you want to use.
Flies on shit.
Flies on shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't do jiu-jitsu, but I do a different form of grappling. And so
Greco-Roman wrestling.
No, I do catch wrestling.
I'm just
so
he oils up. It's really awkward, but it's fun.
not for me. It's not. I mean, it's not awkward at all. Maybe for you. But
It is. Well, you take your
weird to
shirt off and your pants. I get.
why would one not?
Weird.
So, but when I started wrestling and doing grappling, I mean, my ability to deal with combative people was elevated way more than your average officer. So I didn't have the need to punch anybody in the face or punch. I don't punch anymore. I just, it's a takedown to a submission,
a
of
clinch,
some sort, or a clinch to a takedown to a control position. Right. And 98% of the people you're going to encounter, you're going to be all over them.
Yep.
And if you do have that one or two that are trained the way you are, well, that's just a competition. So now we're going to have a little fun, right?
Yeah. And then that's never happened to me. I've never gone against anybody that's formally trained. I have gone against people that probably did a lot of wrestling with their brothers and sisters, so I could feel that they had a general sense of their balance.
Or maybe had a combatives program in the military.
Yeah, something to that effect. But either way, if you train, like I said, you know, I put the time into the training. My confidence level was there, and we're only talking fractions of a second of an adjustment.
Right.
Oh shit, I can feel a base. Well, now I'm going to knock that base out. Boom.
Well, I mean, that's my thing. If you get pulled into guard by somebody, right, that you're like, okay, this guy's got some training, and especially if it's guard with wrist control. Now you know, okay, this guy's got a little bit of training.
You start laughing, you're like, what the heck? Good for
to,
you.
Well, yeah. I did that one time rolling with a recruit. I was like, oh, somebody's got some training.
Yeah. Let me smash you.
But I think getting back to that point, and it makes me wonder sometimes, and this is one of my favorite questions that people ask me is, do police officers have physical standards? They should.
Ish.
Yeah.
They have them.
And here's a good question for just any of the officers out there, and I'll just use my department as an example. I used to get a lot of, well, if they let me work out on duty, I'd be in shape too.
Would you?
I was on our department for 15 years before I got to SWAT. I worked out off duty.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to go to SWAT because they just liked me and they were going to let me work out on duty.
Yeah.
I worked out off duty so that I could earn the right to do it on duty.
Yeah.
Why would you, in this day and age, why would you not do something to stay in shape?
Yeah. If your department has the ability, like allocation of money, there's certain, like, I won't name the department, but I know of a department that pays $1,000 a year for you to complete your physical standards.
$1,000. Yeah.
Now,
isn't that ridiculous? And I bet there's still people that don't do it.
Right. So with that, it's $1,000 incentive to do your physical standards each year. I would much rather that $1,000 be put towards a jiu-jitsu membership, because that $1,000, a lot of, and I guarantee any jiu-jitsu place would step up and offer some sort of officer discount, whatever it is, because they want their officers to be safe, and they want them to be. If you're trained in jiu-jitsu, the person you're dealing with, the bad guy you're dealing with, they're safer because of
absolutely they are, because you're not pounding on them or anything else. You have more control and you're more confident.
And you're not going to depend on your Batman belt to get you out of stuff. You're going to be able to handle it, hands-on approach with minimal effort. And I think if we could make officers, and you tell me what you think about this. I brought it up before. What do you think about mandatory blue belts?
I saw that recently. I know the state of Michigan is pushing that, and I know there's a big push for the whole Adopt a Cop thing. A lot of BJJ gyms are doing the Adopt a Cop thing, and I think it's a great idea, and I think it's probably going to flop because most officers don't want to do it off duty.
Right.
If they're getting paid to do it, they'll do the bare minimum to pass the class. But they will not do it willingly off duty. And that's one of my big things, is if you don't have the self-start, if you don't have the survival instinct to want to learn how to do this stuff, then...
The one thing I think about jiu-jitsu, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
The one thing I know it's me because I love it, but I think with jiu-jitsu, if you can get that person, the officer that doesn't want to do it, I think 3/4 of them, and this is just an opinion, once you get them past that 3-month mark, they're gonna grow to enjoy it.
It's possible. I'd like to see which way the experiment goes.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong.
Even if I still have a quarter of them that are like, F this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to get hurt. I'm not going to put much energy into it. Okay, but if I win over 4 out of 10 officers, it's kind of a win.
Don't take my pessimistic view of it as a sign that I don't think we should try it. I think it's a
glass
great
half full.
I'm one of those guys that it's not half full, it's not half empty. It's just the glass is twice as big as it needs to be. So,
I like it.
So, anyways, I hope it works. Don't take it as a sign that I don't think we should try it.
Yeah.
I absolutely think we should try it.
Yeah.
I just know cops. I've been around cops for 30 years now almost. So, I mean,
they hate change and they hate being told what to do, which is funny for a job that changes other people's stuff and makes them do things.
Your dad's old school, and he does jiu-jitsu, but how successful was he at getting any of his peers to do jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right. Yeah.
So how did we get onto that? It was in reference to training in general.
Confidence level.
Yeah. So, for me, that's what grappling did for me. Mm-hmm. I think all officers should do it. I do have one caveat I want to add to that, though. If you watch the UFC or you watch any of those serious fights, what are 90% of the stoppages? If it's not a knockout, what's it going to be?
Submission.
It's a choke.
Well, yes.
And when
still a submission, or they go out,
they're taking our ability to use the chokehold away.
Yeah.
So my question is, if the most successful techniques in jiu-jitsu are generally speaking the chokes, and we're not allowed to do those anymore, so now what? I don't like it when, first off, I'm going to say this. People are getting choked out in training halls and dojos all across this country.
Thousands of times a day.
Thousands of times a day in this country. Every day.
I will tell you
voluntarily.
I have been put unconscious.
Yes.
At least 20-something times in jiu-jitsu because I'm stubborn.
You got stubborn, or the choke I put on so fast.
Yes.
Okay. So here's my thing. Are you okay? Reasonable. I mean,
if you ask my wife,
physically you're okay.
Yes, physically, yes, I'm fine.
So my question is, if we taught somebody how to do a proper lateral vascular neck restraint or a proper rear naked choke or anything else, why is that a bad thing? It's not.
It's ignorance.
It is ignorance.
And when I say ignorance, it's not an insult. To me, the definition of ignorance is just a lack of knowledge. You just don't know about it.
You don't know what you don't know. All you see is that somebody died from being choked. Now, if you apply it improperly, yes. You cause damage. So you'll teach them properly.
Yes.
Right? I don't.
Here's my major argument for anybody listening, and I didn't plan on getting into chokes, but now that we're here, because I 3 years of the academy, I really tried to get that thing approved, and it didn't work for me. But when you are allowed to use deadly force, if an officer is allowed to use deadly force, that means a guy's going to stab him. Let's say he lost his gun or his gun is incapacitated, whatever it is, and he picks up a rock and he hits the guy in the head and kills him. He was allowed to because deadly force was the circumstance that deadly force was authorized. Now, if an officer is in a deadly force situation and he's allowed to use deadly force and he decides to use a rear naked choke, that's what he has. Your subject goes out. Now we're in a gray area because deadly force was authorized, but now your person's unconscious and the threat level is over.
It's gone. Right.
So would you rather have your officers trained in a rear naked choke and understand what it does and the guy lives versus an untrained officer who puts a rear naked choke on, doesn't realize the guy's unconscious, and keeps holding past the point that a defense attorney is going to learn that you put a rear naked choke on somebody and he knows that the blood cuts off to the head, the guy goes unconscious, the threat is over, and you didn't let go.
Well, or alternatively, you apply it incorrectly and your forearm is across their
and you crush their throat.
You crush their throat.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Train them properly.
Train them.
We teach officers how to use guns.
Right.
Don't we?
Yeah.
We teach them how to use those properly. You tell me I can't teach a person how to properly do a rear naked choke?
Yes.
I'm not saying that you need to go all the way through and learn how to do, barambolos and all that other stuff that's out there. Right. I'm not looking to teach anybody how to do a De La Hiva guard or any of that kind of stuff, right? But God, there's got to be some basics, right? And there's got to be something that we can teach people that's effective. And here's my other argument about this, and I've heard this from older officers too. You keep taking tools away from me, right? You take away my rear naked choke. You take away this, you take away that. It's your obligation to replace that with something that works.
Yes.
But they keep taking away the tools without giving us a replacement that works.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, and I'm going to say this about any officer, and I'm going to make a broad generalization here. If somebody out there would invent a less lethal tool that worked 99.8% of the time effectively, we would all use it.
Yep.
If you gave me a phaser gun off
I was going to say Star Trek, yeah.
It worked 99.8%. I would set it to stun, and I would have no problem with that. I don't want to kill anybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. None of us want to go out here and kill. We don't wake up in the morning, eat our cornflakes, and go, oh, you know what? You know what? I think I'll go kill somebody today. That's not how it goes. Yes. I don't know anybody like that.
And I'll make the argument, if rear naked chokes were understood and educated to the people, it could be the alternative go-to for intermediate to deadly force where nobody gets hurt. Because the other option I have is a taser. Where they have no control over their body, and if I'm in the wrong place and they slam onto their head on a let's say pavement or something like that, that could be a TBI.
Sure.
Or versus I go to a baton, which is a big metal bat. Who wants a big metal bat swung?
And now I'm breaking bones.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Or fingers or what. I mean, because, your dad goes to swat you in the ass. What's your first instinct? Cover your butt. Cover your hand. So if I go to swing a bat at you, the first thing you're going to do is naturally try to block it with your hand. So there's all sorts of things that could go wrong with a big metal bat and a taser. Now, with a rear naked choke, when you're trained, and this is my thing, and I have a solution for what I'm about to say.
Good.
With a rear naked choke, the whole point is you put the person, you render them unconscious. When they're out, that's enough time to put them on their stomach, put their hands behind their back, cuff them before they wake up.
And then put them in the recovery position.
Yes. So you put them in a recovery position, and they're good to go. This happens daily.
It happens every day, thousands of times a day.
All over the nation. I promise you this. I volunteer as tribute. I will let somebody put me out, and I guarantee I'm going to wake up. So all it does is cut the blood off to the head. It's not an airway thing. Cuts the blood off to the head, puts them out. So here's my fix, just like a taser. Mm-hmm. You have to get certified in this.
Sure.
Now, if this is going to be a new thing, I would even say you have to get trained. You have to recertify every 6 months and show proficiency.
Sure.
So let's go with that. Every 2 months, or every 6 months. If you want it to be a tool in your tool belt, then you have to go get certified at it every 6 months. Boom. Now you've got officers. You're going to see the ones that want to do it and the ones that don't. And let's see how it works. I believe there's a department. I don't remember where they're at. I almost want to say it's Minnesota. I'm not positive on that, but it may be up there.
Okay.
Or maybe St. Louis. I'd have to look at my paperwork again because I have a whole write-up on how to trying to justify rear naked chokes. But they've been using it since the 70s, and they train on it, and they have 0 fatalities, 0 liability claims.
Right, because they train on it.
And they've got hundreds, if not thousands, of uses since the 70s.
You're preaching to the choir on this one because to me, it's one of the safest things you can do to take a combative suspect into custody.
Yes.
I'm not going to say that I've done it because it's against our general orders. Mm-hmm. I'll just leave it at that.
They may have fainted.
But that gets back to training. And that's how we ended up on this. Those are some good beers.
God damn, that's good.
So why officers don't want to train, don't like to train, aren't fascinated with training, I don't get it. That's all I wanted to do when I was in the Army. I just wanted to train.
Okay.
I wanted to train. I wanted to learn, right?
Yes.
I wanted to get out there and be proficient with my handgun. I wanted to be proficient with my hands. I became a DT instructor just for that.
Defensive tactics.
Right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Defensive tactics or control tactics, whatever they're calling it.
So I get what you're saying, and my devil's advocate to that is I don't know what the fuck's going through your head that you want to do SWAT. I don't know what's going through your head that you want to do digital forensics. Fuck that job. I don't know what's going through your head that you want to go be on K9. No, I actually like K9. I could see.
See, I've never had any interest in K9.
I do. It's just the commitment is the only. I wanted to promote, and so that was the balance, and I
like the ones that want to go be on the mounted unit with the horses and stuff. I'm like, I have no interest in being around horses.
I'm good.
Well, that takes all kinds.
Yes.
And that's fine.
So that is kind of what I'm getting at when you're like, I don't understand why people don't want to do the training part. But any recruit I've ever trained, if you ask them, I've told them, please give me 3 months. Go out as soon as you graduate from here. Yeah. Go sign up for jiu-jitsu for 3 months and try to go 3+ times a week. Just do that for me. And if you don't get hooked or whatever it is, at least I will feel a little bit more confident in what you're out there doing.
At least you have that base to work with.
Yes.
Even if you hated it.
Even if you hated it. But man, I'm telling you, if you can get to your blue belt minimum, the isn't that where everybody quits in jiu-jitsu? They get the blue belt and they quit. They get the blue. It's a different type of blue flu, but they get the blue flu.
Apparently so.
And
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this back to SWAT. You ready?
I am ready.
I get this question a lot. Do you guys train a lot in hand-to-hand combat?
No.
No. And I'm going to tell you why.
You got too much shit on you.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons. You have 40 to 60 pounds of kit on you, and you have a rifle slung in front of you. And if you think you're going to go ahead and do some kind of fancy
half that weight is your balls, because whether you're a female or a male,
right? They're swinging.
Right?
Yeah. So you're not going to do any fancy chop socky stuff in the middle of it.
That may be racially insensitive.
I apologize. You're not going to do any kung fu or anything like that. What you're going to do is honestly. You're going to use that 40 to 60 pounds of kit plus whatever you weigh, and you're going to be a bulldozer, and you're going to take the person to the ground, and you're going to get on top of them.
Yeah, use that weight to your advantage.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 or 3 of your buddies with you, and you're going to basically dogpile the person.
Yeah, which is a form of jiu-jitsu. There's nothing worse than the pressure player.
I have never seen it like in the movies where the SWAT guy ends up having a series of hand-to-hand combat encounters. You ever seen that movie, The Raid?
Yes.
So, yeah, I never had it happen. Great movie.
That's a great movie.
It's a phenomenal movie. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a Indonesian film.
Yeah.
And, it's called The Raid.
And there's multiple. Like
yeah, there's The Raid too, but I would tell you see The Raid because there's some phenomenal fight scenes in that movie. But that has never happened to me or anyone else that I
go
know
into each level of the floor where you fought at least 30 people hand to hand.
You see these movies where, the SWAT guy ends up getting into it with like 10 different guys and goes hand to hand with everybody like Batman, right? Hasn't happened yet. Yeah. I'm not saying it would never happen because, stuff can always happen, but it's never happened yet.
I just want to say Dalton Webb's going to be mad at you because you just beat his record.
Did I?
Yeah, I think we went for 2 hours 22 minutes.
Man, I hope this has been interesting. So
we're at 2:34. So.
I'm trying to think of the other questions that people have asked me just about SWAT in general.
Oh, I can guide you to keep going.
Well, please
don't worry about that.
If you want to keep going, we'll keep going. I got no problem.
I do.
This may be a 2-part episode.
No, fuck that. This is long form discussion. That's what I wanted this to be.
It's like a long form poem.
It is. And it doesn't even have to be about SWAT. Yeah, we've talked about SWAT, but we can keep. I mean, we just jumped into chokeholds. Let's go into ground fighting.
I'll tell you what's interesting about the tactical world is what's old has become new again.
Oh,
and I'm going to talk about that.
It's like the newer officers are like, oh, we're doing this now. And you're like, oh.
Well, okay, so I'm going to tie this in with the fact that we actually, from time to time, we've had the opportunity to train with some very special people from the Army and the Navy. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Why wasn't I invited?
Did you not get the invite?
I didn't.
I sent it to your email.
I have a cat card, sir.
That's weird.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you what. When I leave here, I'm going to look into that for you.
Okay.
So, anyways, we've had multiple opportunities to train with some very, very special folks from the military, and where was I going with that?
We're talking about training, ground fighting, and then jumped into.
Yeah.
Did you lose it?
Yeah, I think I lost it. I apologize for that. It'll come back to me in a minute here. But,
how old are you?
52.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't look it, guys.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
If you're just listening, he doesn't look like it.
No, I'm 52.
I bet you eat a lot of that cereal though.
Which one? What do we have?
Look at that box. You can pick it up.
Wheaties?
Pick it up. Take a look at it.
Yeah, I probably need to.
It's poop like a champion.
My wife would die.
Ultra fiber cereal.
Don't need that at all. So, yeah, but we hit on something just before that kind of triggered my memory about the training with the guys. And
you said we can keep talking about SWAT if you want. You can talk about it. I said I can guide you, and then I said we can talk about.
We'll probably circle back to it shortly here. But,
okay.
If you have additional. Oh, I know what I said. Old becomes new again.
Old becomes new.
Okay. So when I first started training, of course, it was 1992, and I'm in Korea. And
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we were wearing, back home in 3rd grade, I was wearing These Colors Don't Run with a yellow ribbon.
Did you have parachute pants?
And that goes without question.
Were you listening to Nirvana?
No. In 92? No.
Is that too early?
Well, that might have been too early, but I was listening to like NWA.
Oh,
and
there you go.
I would hide that on my Garth Brooks like mixtape because I didn't want my mom to find out. So I'd be listening on like my Macaulay Culkin, audio tape player
on your Walkman.
Walkman. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
So when I was in this class, it was being taught by these Green Berets and everything, and the first half of the class, it was a 3-week course, and so in the military police world, you have SRT school, okay, which is your SWAT school for the Army military police.
So it's still special response team type thing?
Special reaction team or something like that.
Okay.
So anyways, so they were not going to send us back to Fort McClellan, Alabama to go take this 2-week school. That's just too much money. So they sent an instructor from Alabama to come teach us the military police way.
Okay.
So most of what they taught back then was actually not dynamic entry. It was slow, deliberate clearing, which meant you went slowly, quietly through a target until you found a person. Like say you had a barricaded person, you would infiltrate the house as quietly as possible. You would move very slowly, very deliberately, and you would clear the house until you got to the point where you had your person that was causing problems. That was back when we taught entry on almost everything.
Do you find that beneficial, or do you find that
No, I'm going to explain the differences here in a minute here. So my main thing was we duck walked everywhere. They had us duck walking for like a week, which kills your thighs like you wake up the next day and they're just burning.
So what is duck walking?
Duck walking is when you basically go into a full squat and you walk like that. You just walk like a duck. You move your feet, right? But you stay in this full squat, ass to the grass.
Trying to stay real still.
Very low,
top.
very slow, staying very still on top. Which sounds good in theory, because in theory, when it was time for you to go dynamic or time for you to go fast and loud, you were just supposed to pop up and do that. Good luck after you've been duck walking for 45 minutes to an hour through this house trying to clear it quietly. Right. However, the slow and deliberate thing came back in the global war on terror. A lot of the specialized units that are out there that were doing the heavy lifting, your CAG guys, your, DevGru guys, they used to do stuff very quickly. They used to do a lot of dynamic entry, but what they found was they were losing operators too fast, because they'd go into these houses and, it's not like hitting a house here in the United States. You'd hit a house and, they'd have a machine gun emplacement set up down a hallway.
Oh.
And now you lose 2 or 3 operators because we've gone in fast and dynamic, right? So what they found was they started to kind of readopt some old police tactics, moving slowly and deliberately. Now, they don't duck walk, but if you've ever watched like Zero Dark 30, or if you've ever watched that show with David Boreanaz's SEAL team, they have some legit guys that are their technical advisors. And they move slowly and deliberately. They call it combat clearance. But they don't move as fast as you would think. Mm-hmm. And I asked one of the guys when we were training with them, I'm like, I really thought you guys would move a lot faster. What's that all about? And he explained to me that in these combat zones, they were finding that they were losing too many operators from going too fast. But if they went slow under the cover of darkness, because it's all about wearing, your night vision and all that.
Yeah.
Under the cover of darkness, moving slowly and quietly, they were able to have much more successful operations, and they lost way less people.
Okay.
So I say that only because a lot of teams have adopted that as their movement techniques when they go into a house.
At night.
Not always.
Oh, okay.
Not always. You can do a slow and deliberate clear, during the day.
You're talking stateside.
During the day. Yeah, I'm talking about like a SWAT team. Some SWAT teams do that as their entry tactic. Like if they're going to make entry into a house, it doesn't necessarily need to be full on high speed, speed, surprise, violence of action. A lot of them will do it. They will breach dynamically, but then it's a slow and deliberate clear.
Yeah.
They found that to be a more successful tactic. So that I just circle that around to say what's old in the tactical world becomes new again.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, they kind of, I don't want to say they reinvent the wheel, but it was just interesting to see that these guys, and the other thing, a lot of people don't realize that the Delta guys and the SEAL guys and all them, they do a lot of surrounding call outs now, just like we do. We surround the house and we call people out.
Okay.
There's no reason to make entry.
You're talking overseas.
Overseas, yeah.
Oh, no shit.
They do surrounding call outs.
Yeah.
Right. So you surround the place. Why am I going to go in?
Yeah.
This guy's a suicide bomber or whatever. What do I gain by making entry?
Yeah.
And, 20 years ago, they would have been like, oh, hell yeah. And they're going to all hit it as hard as they can, right?
Yeah.
You're going to lose operators. So there's a guy named Randy Watt who's a trainer for a lot of SWAT teams. He actually used to be the commander of the Ogden, Utah SWAT team. And he goes around and teaches. And years ago, he was preaching that we should not be doing dynamic entries unless it was a hostage rescue. And it was a pretty controversial subject. Here in Texas, most agencies still did dynamic entries for narcotics warrants.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely it became a thing where maybe this isn't the smartest tactic to use, right? And then, of course, we had the Breonna Taylor incident in another state. And there's a push now for no entry, no knock entries, no dynamic entries. And honestly, I don't think it really, I think it's a good thing. Dynamic entry is a hostage rescue technique. And honestly, for most situations, you don't need to do that. You should not be applying hostage rescue tactics for a narcotics warrant.
Right. a non-hostage thing.
For a non-hostage situation.
Yeah.
I don't. I didn't necessarily agree with Randy Watt when he first put that out, but the more I looked at it, the more I was like, maybe this guy's onto something. And slowly but surely, that has all kind of changed. Texas was kind of the last place where you could do a lot of no-knock warrants up until recently, but now they've all pretty much stopped. It's pretty rare. Now, there needs to be exceptions. If I have a hostage situation, I'm not going to do that slowly.
Yeah.
It's going to be a no-knock, full-blown dynamic entry, right? But for most other things, what do you need to go dynamic for?
Yeah.
You know?
I got a question for you.
Yep.
What's your opinion on using a robot as a offensive tool?
Oh, you're referring to the Dallas incident,
I
2015?
am. Yes, sir.
I thought it was brilliant.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying
I have friends.
I had never considered that, and I never thought of that tactic until I heard it, and I'm sitting there going, you know what?
Okay, so I got to sit through a private debriefing about that whole incident.
I got to go to the same one.
Did you got to go to one?
Yes.
Okay. And I will tell you, I know
because
I've met the guy that came up with the plan. I know him. I'm not going to say we're friends or anything, but it's like, you know, I recognize him when I see him. We've chatted about.
I just couldn't believe anybody approved it. Let's put it that way.
I was surprised they approved it, but if you looked at the tactical situation, it made the most sense at the time. And I have friends, especially in the grappling world, who completely and utterly disagreed with it. I have a friend who's very libertarian and who told me that was essentially a drone strike on a U.S. target. And I was like, you are way overselling this.
Okay. So, well, I just thought of this. There's people that aren't going to know what we're talking about necessarily. So you want to...
Yeah. So in 2015, there was an active shooter incident in Dallas where I think 5 officers were killed by an individual. Long story short, he ended up barricading himself in a building. I think it was part of El Centro College's campus. He ended up basically down a dead-end hallway. He had no exits, but he had a AK-74 rifle, and they weren't sure what else he was armed with. And he had barricaded himself. I think he was injured at the time, but he was at the end of a hallway. And so the question was, how were they going to take this guy into custody? And he made it clear when they tried to talk to him that he was not going to surrender.
Yeah.
He was going to take as many police officers as he could with him. He made that clear. So the decision was made to utilize a robot, and they used the robot to basically employ an explosive device, and they rolled it down the hallway and initiated the explosive device, and it did kill the suspect. My personal opinion, and it does not represent the opinion of anyone else other than me, I thought it was brilliant. I never would have come up with that. In a million years, I never would have come up with that tactic.
Never even thought of it.
I know the guy who came up with it, and I was like, that was absolutely brilliant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I realize there's going to be some people that disagree with me, but that's
I think it saved lives.
It saved officers' lives.
Yeah, because that was his goal, and he'd already proved it.
His mission was to kill officers. You know, why would I put my head around the corner so this guy could shoot at it? That's not my job. My job is not to allow somebody to try to kill me first. My job is to save lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, if saving lives means I have to take the life of a person who's trying to take innocent people's lives, well, then that's how things have to go.
Even if you're a cop, you're still an innocent life.
Right. That's how things have to go that day. You know, he had multiple opportunities to surrender, and he certainly could have. And he made it very clear that he was motivated and he was not going to surrender.
Yeah.
Well, we can't just leave the guy there until he passes out or starves to death or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I personally thought it was brilliant. I'm not going to say
it's outside the box. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's really what makes a good SWAT guy, in my opinion. It's one of the things that makes a good SWAT guy is the ability to think way outside the box and come up with an idea that's like, you've got this unusual situation. It's like, how do I solve this problem?
Yeah.
And that's what it's really about, is problem solving, right? I'm saving lives, but I'm solving these problems, these very complex problems sometimes. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to be able to solve that problem, and to, especially when you can get a guy who's very motivated or whatever out of a house, nobody gets hurt, nobody dies, nobody gets injured.
Yeah.
That's
the goal.
That's the goal, and that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I never had the opportunity to participate in a live hostage rescue. I would imagine that is probably the ultimate as far as that goes. And that's really the gold standard for any SWAT team, is the ability to do a cold hit, unknown floor plan, hostage rescue, and to do it successfully, save the hostages. Nobody died. Nobody died.
Nobody's.
That's the gold standard.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that this team where we work has done that.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
So
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well, that's cool.
So that to me is that's a sign of how professional this team is.
Yeah.
I've said for years, I had said that when I was there, was I have no doubt in my mind that if we had to do that we'd do it.
Yeah.
And a couple months later after I left, they proved me right.
Okay. Oh,
So,
fuckers.
and the interesting thing was most of the veteran guys on the team were off on vacation or whatever. It was actually a lot of the junior guys on the team.
Really?
Yeah. It was kind of weird just how it all fell together, but it was a lot of the junior guys.
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
They did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you can rescue hostages, I mean, how much more gratifying does it get?
Yeah. I mean, I love getting property back to people. But
I do too. I've done
I'm
that.
I'm sure.
No, seriously. I mean,
know.
anytime you can help somebody, no matter what the situation is, right? I mean,
Yep.
as mundane as this sounds, I've stopped a guy from choking one time.
Really?
Yeah, he was choking to death in a Jason's Deli, and all these people were just standing around. And I'm like, the funny part was we were in this Jason's Deli, and there's all these medical people standing around, all these people in scrubs, and they're all like, I mean, this guy's choking like he's doing the universal symbol for I'm choking, right? And I walk over there and I can see the guy's choking. All these medical people are standing around him going, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I just walked up, I shoved him out of the way. I was like, "Get out of the way." And I just Heimlich maneuvered him, and
it works.
Out came the food, and that's gratifying.
The only SWAT brag that I have is I saved one of your guys.
How so?
Old Javier.
Yes.
Yes. He had a heart issue, and I didn't know what was going on. I just thought he was we all thought he was having a seizure, but we hooked up the AED. I went and grabbed the AED just to be sure.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to put too much of his business out, but I do remember me and the lieutenant we were just getting ready to run sprints because we both hated him. But we see the fire truck come up, and it comes into the headquarters building, and then it pulls up next to the gym, and then we walk up. We're like, "What's going on?" And we see Javi on the floor, and we're like, "Oh my God!" We just talked to him.
Yep.
Like 2 minutes prior.
Yep.
But thankfully he surved. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I know that AED has like 3 saves on it or something like that. So
and the point I'm trying to make is that what you're saying, like if you save a hostage, just the fact of saving somebody's life is
I can't imagine how rewarding that is.
It's so, and it's not a like personal thing. It's just like you put yourself in their shoes, and you just hope somebody else out there thinks the same way you do,
right?
To do the right thing and help people out.
And I think that's one of those situations where all the work and all the training and everything that you've done up until that point really pays off.
Yeah. I can tell you in the 17 years I've been in law enforcement with the Javi thing, when his heart went out, whatever it was that caused it or whatever he had going on, I have always been a calm, cool, collected guy. As soon as that was over, I've
cried.
It was like, it was almost the first time I ever shot a buck, like going hunting.
The adrenaline
as a 10-year-old kid, I didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
Like, my eyes are swelling up just thinking about it.
There's an adrenaline dump that takes place, and a lot of times that gets released through tears, crying, whatever. I mean, I had to call I called my wife to go get his wife.
Yeah.
Because my wife's a paramedic, and I knew if I told her, she could tell by my voice something was wrong, and I just told her. I said, "Go get his wife." And
when I see him now in a SWAT uniform, which he's back in SWAT, that makes me so happy. But when I see him, it's a hug every time. Like he sees me, he gives me a hug, and it's just the way it is.
Well, Javi's very huggable, anyway.
And he is a huggable guy, but. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know Javi. I don't know him like personally. I don't know anything going on with his personal life, nothing like that. But I see that dude, and I just feel connected to him. Like I got to give him a hug, and he gives me a hug. So
I completely understand.
It's a saving lives and what SWAT does, and that's the point I'm trying to make is that there's just a certain thing about that, and a hostage rescue. I can't even imagine. I've never done anything near that, never even been close to that.
We had one operation when I was still with the team that we weren't sure if the hostage takers were still in the building. It was a robbery that had gone down, and they tied up the store owner. And
was that a mobile PCS, Metro PCS thing?
No.
Okay.
No, it was a gas station.
Just curious.
But it was, we weren't sure. So the decision was made, well, he's a hostage. So
act like it.
As far as we know, he's a hostage. We can't prove otherwise.
Yeah.
So turned out they had left, but we still
treated it
like a live hostage rescue. But it's unfortunate I never had the opportunity to actually get to do that. But it's kind of like being in the military, right? You train.
Yeah.
Well, if they never send you to war, it's not your fault. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, I did 7 years in the Army. They never sent me anywhere except Korea. So, I mean,
you know what pissed me off is I signed up during a time of war.
And you still didn't go.
And I still didn't go. I went to Montana. Don't get me wrong. I had a good time.
No, it was a job to do out there too, right? But so you missed out on all the steak and lobster in the chow halls, huh?
No, I didn't. We still had that.
I hear about that all the time, like at Bagram Air Force Base and stuff. They talk about that's like the Air Force guys got steak and lobster, and you know what? I don't blame you.
It's so funny.
I would eat it too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, brother, we're approaching 3 hours. I think.
I sure hope I answered any questions people had about SWAT. I know.
I think you did.
I know we got off on a lot of tangents, but
I'm okay with it. And what's good about this is I think we kept a natural flow, and I think it worked.
I think so. So here's what I'm thinking. If people do have questions later on, and if you need those questions answered, do you want me to come back or whatever?
Absolutely.
I don't mind. I'll come back. The other thing we'll talk about is we can talk about supervision and leadership.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Oh, my God.
Because I have opinions on that as well.
Yeah. You're an opinionated person.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to say that I've always done it right, but I've always intended to do it right.
Yeah.
So,
I gotcha.
We should have that discussion sometime.
We will, for sure. I just want to put out there, show's going great, guys. I just want to give an update. I have had great feedback. I'm starting to get input from other agencies. People are reaching out. They want to come on. They want to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can find me on Facebook. I created a new Facebook page it's the number 2 cops and then the number 1 and then donuts. So I have a page for that. I also have our Facebook, I don't know what your profile, which is TCOD. So if you see that out there, we're on YouTube. You should be able to find us under 2 Cops 1 Donut for that. The email is 2 Cops 1 Donut, all spelled out. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on all these outlets. So
you've got it covered.
I got it covered.
So basically, they can find you no matter what.
Yes. Now, the problem that I'm having is I'm trying to look at this phone through a reflection because I'm recording on a phone. Mm-hmm. I'm recording on an iPad. And then I have this it's actually a good webcam. It's not optimal. And if you saw my episode with the mayor of Fort Worth, I apologize. There was an update to the software that I use, and it gave me the option to do a higher quality video. So I did that naturally.
Why would you not?
Why would I not? So I was trying to give the highest quality I could. Unfortunately, whatever the software is and the quality that I was trying to push through, it was not compatible. So every time you saw the wide angle shot, it was stuttery and terrible looking. So I put it back to the old setting. I'm hoping that that's good for us. If
I think it will be. There's not a whole lot of motion going on.
Yeah, so we're not doing a whole lot. So I hope that's good. I am still looking for sponsors. I sent out a bunch.
Would somebody please sponsor this man?
I know, dude. Please, I am looking for sponsors. I'm terribly.
Maybe Turning Point will sponsor you now.
Oh my God!
Now that we've put
now that is one I support.
That's something I can get behind right there.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I love it. So, guys, I've been getting huge support. I've had some religious leaders have recently reached out. They want to come out here and talk. That was an aspect I hadn't even considered.
I think that's great. I mean, the more you can, I like how you're using the platform to educate.
Yeah, that's it. You know, I'm not trying to play a political side. I'm not trying to do any of that. I just want to educate and show perspective. We educated about SWAT, but we also gave a perspective from you, which is unique. So everybody's got a unique perspective. And I'll throw this out there again. If you're an officer, I got an officer from I'll call it a sister agency. They're not too far off. Reached out, said he wanted to come talk about control tactics.
Sweet.
We may have different types of control tactics and use of force and all that stuff. So he wants to come on. I said, hell yeah, let's do it. Steve Oliver, my DPS, retired DPS buddy, he wants to come on. So I'm like, fucking let's do it, you know? So I'm going to try to get him.
Well, I hope it blows up for you.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Hopefully you get some good sponsors and
so
get some steam.
With that said, brother,
all right, my friend,
I'm going to give you the fist bump. We're going to get that outro music going. It's been good having you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.